Chapter 363. While Noah was helping injured Oscar get back to his feet, Gaia heard footsteps. She slowly moved into the dark corner of the room, not to avoid a battle but to see what else Noah could do. You have no idea what you've done. You're dead. Few of the men Eric captured muttered. Eric did a number on them by breaking several bones including the jaw. Hence, they had a hard time talking. You're simply seeking death by killing the men in my stronghold. Boom. Right at this moment, a loud shout sounded out from afar as the room's door exploded into bits and pieces. The next moment, a figure emerged through the dust produced by the door. The man who stepped into the torture room was a man in his early 30s. He had an oval-shaped face like the full moon with two round eyes, as though someone put eggs in his head instead of eyes. His body was draped in blood-red robes that swept the ground as he walked. One would expect a man capable of such cruelty would look cruel too, yet this man looked gentle as a flower. However, standing in the dark corner, Gaia could see the murderous intent in his eyes. Eyes were said to be the windows to one's soul. She could see his cruel soul through his bloodshot eyes. Young master. One of the men apprehended by Eric looked at Murdoch as if he had just found his savior. Their faces brightened up immediately. They had witnessed Murdoch's strength before, and they knew that no matter how strong the young man in front of him was, there was no way he would be a match for Murdoch. After all, Murdoch was a core formation level 8 cultivator while Noah was just at the core formation level 2. Murdoch turned around, looking at the dead bodies scattered across the place. Blood was still leaking out from many of his subordinates. In an instant, fury filled his eyes. You did all this? Murdoch stared angrily at Noah. Noah didn't answer Murdoch's question. Instead, Noah just stared at him with a clenched fist. So you are Murdoch? Noah asked as he threw an examining look onto Murdoch. Young master, these guys are guardians. They ambushed us like cowards. They are. The man who tortured Oscar was called Kai. He had a frightened expression on his face, and he was unable to pull himself out of his panicked state. He couldn't say he and his men were beaten up by two youngsters in a couple of seconds. Humph. I will deal with you weaklings later. I have these two guardians to torture and kill. Murdoch let out a cold snort. It wasn't easy to cultivate a group of men in Hell City. All these men had pledged loyalty to him and worked under his command. He would always send them to hunt for monsters in the depths of Fire Realm, and he would be able to get a share of their harvest. Put it this way, as long as he had a group of men working for him, he would be able to enjoy good wealth and benefits without doing anything himself. In Fire Realm, monster cores were the currency. The more people he had working for him, the more monster cores he would get. He accumulated an amassed amount of monster cores over the years. Hence he was living a lavish life in Fire Realm. This was why he never left Fire Realm even though he had every chance to leave this place. Now, all his men had been injured and apprehended by guardians in such a short period of time. This was no different than messing with his life in Fire Realm. Therefore, Murdoch had every right to be pissed off. Murdoch, a genius from Aragoth who turned into a warlord, quite a career change. But too bad, you've offended someone you shouldn't have. You hurt my friend, you messed with a guardian. Today, I'll bring my friend justice, and that's the reason why I want to throw everyone in this stronghold into the deepest dungeons of the Guardian Guild, except you. Noah slowly walked forwards with his eyes locked on Murdoch. You will regret messing with a guardian until the end of your days, Noah said without hiding the cold murderous intent in his heart. Gaia was watching the scene unfold from the dark corner. To this moment, Murdoch was unaware of her existence in the room. As far as he was concerned, he only had two guardians to deal with. Don't think I don't know why he's here. Once I sell the information I know along with him, I'm gonna be freaking rich everywhere. Murdoch burst into laughter without giving a damn about Noah's threat. Only place you're gonna sell any information to is the prison you're going. Noah shrugged. He remained standing in the same spot. Gaia saw Murdoch flicking his wrist as a round-shaped lock that glowed in a dark light appeared in his hand. There were numerous mystical symbols carved onto the lock itself. She looked closer to see the symbols were actually patterns that resembled ancient beasts. Flaming gorilla, come out now. Murdoch suddenly shouted out loudly as he yanked the lock. Ding-ling. The black lock vibrated violently before letting out a dinging sound. In a blink of an eye, a ground-shaking roar suddenly sounded out from the depths of the stronghold. After that, a flaming figure suddenly jumped out of the lock. It was a gorilla with a body that looked made of volcanic stones, and its entire body was emitting a flaming red light. The fire ape was over 10 meters tall, and it resembled King Kong. When the fire ape saw Murdoch, an intense hatred emerged in its eyes. But when it saw the black lock in his hand, the intense hatred was turned into fear and meekness. The fire ape let out an angry roar as it descended from the skies. It slammed into the ground with massive force, causing an explosion to sound out, the entire stronghold to shake, and countless cracks to appear on the ground. It unleashed tremendous arch-energy combined with scorching flames, enough to send fear deep into one's heart. Guardian Noah, be careful, this is a flaming gorilla. It's a bloody level 10 core formation stage beast. I don't know how Murdoch managed to make this flaming gorilla obey his command. That thing somehow makes him control the wild beasts. Eric's expression changed, and without any hesitation, he explained to Noah. Normally, ancient beasts all had violent tempers, and considered humans their mortal enemies or simply food, even more so for beasts who had broken through to the core formation stage. All of them had their own feelings of pride and dignity, and they would rather die than be controlled by a human. This flaming gorilla had reached level 10 of the core formation stage and just a few months of cultivation away from breaking through to the core strengthening stage, yet it was still being controlled by Murdoch. Gaia was both intrigued and confused. Looking at the lock made Gaia feel something wired. It was like the lock was pulling her close and commanding her to get close. That's a demonic beast tamer. It took Gaia a few seconds to recognize the lock. She had read about this artifact before but never had the chance to see one until now. According to the text she read, these locks were forged by a 6-star human blacksmith who had deep hatred towards other races. He forged the locks to tame and enslave anyone except a human. The 7 locks were said to be lost in time except she found one today. Murdoch smiled as he raised the demonic beast tamer in his hand and waved it towards the flaming gorilla, then he gave out an order, "Flaming gorilla, kill this man for me." Murdoch pointed at Noah. Roar! The flaming gorilla was furious, and flames were shooting out from its eyes. As a beast grew up in the fire realm, it had its own pride and dignity, that's why it felt extremely enraged upon being controlled by a human. However, because of the demonic beast tamer, it was forced to obey Murdoch's command. The appearance of Noah had given it a target to release its anger on. It wanted to vent all its anger on Noah. Bang! The flaming gorilla punched a huge hole in the ground, then it jumped into the air, forcefully throwing its majestic body which was covered in scorching flames toward Noah. Eric's expression changed dramatically. With his cultivation level, he could handle a fire core formation level 2 or 3 warriors, but not a level 10 beast like the flaming gorilla. A brutal opponent like this was really frightening. Pathetic, Noah snickered. Despite the flaming gorilla that's flying towards him in rage, he remained calm. It reminded Gaia of Ghost. Light range, Noah calmly uttered the 2 words as Gaia saw the torture room suddenly gets brighter and brighter. The flaming gorilla stopped rampaging towards Noah as it started to feel threatened by the human in front of it. Release. Instead of unsheathing his words, Noah just raised his finger towards the lock and shouted. The very next moment, a bolt of bright light appeared out of Noah's finger. The light bolt soared through the gorilla without harming it, but when it touched the lock trembled. What the? Murdoch was stunned to see the lock trembling in his hand like never before. In a few seconds, the lock exploded into tiny bits and pieces. The very next moment, a vortex appeared in the room that pulled the flaming gorilla into it. The flaming gorilla let out shrill cries, all of its furs were standing up. It tried to run away from the pulling force, yet its efforts were in vain because, in a few seconds, the flaming gorilla disappeared from the room into the vortex. The blast force produced by the destruction of the lock sent Murdoch flying into the wall behind him. Young master! Murdoch's men shouted. Arg, cough! Murdoch coughed up thick blood while Noah walked towards him. Murdoch could vaguely see Noah through his blurry vision. He tried to stand up but he failed to do so due to internal wounds. Gaia watched Noah putting his hand on Murdoch's head, break. If Ghost was here, he would have killed Murdoch by now, Gaia knew that. However, Noah didn't seem to be interested in killing Murdoch. He just put his hand on Murdoch's head as a bright light enveloped Murdoch in a blink of an eye. Gaia's eyes widened in shock, seeing Murdoch's cultivation level gradually becoming lower and lower. In a few minutes, Murdoch hit rock bottom as he became a commoner. He crippled him, Gaia muttered in shock because it didn't seem like typical crippling, rather, it seemed like he locked away Murdoch's ability to cultivate or use arch energy completely. If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 364. When the commentators and the VIP guests returned to their seats, the sky was decorated with colorful fireworks. They painted the sky as though each firework was a master artist. The fireworks exploded into all kinds of shapes such as dragons, birds, lions, dancing men, and finally, the name Ghost. The Sunrise Sect Pavilion erupted into cheers when they saw the name Ghost occupy all the sky above them. Nightmare flew straight into the air, decorating the golden words with his crimson-red dragon breath. The fireworks weren't arranged by Ghost or anyone he knew. On the contrary, it was arranged by people he never knew, the merchants and the tournament committee. Layla was looking at the sky as the flashes of light reflected in her beautifully crafted hazel eyes. Welcome to the quarter-final, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at the sky, Darius snapped as all the fireworks merged to form the words quarter-final. As usual, we will go through the rules and regulations. Just like the third round, participants can use whatever is necessary to defeat their opponent. Each battle will be one-on-one. The judges and the guests will score the battle according to how long the battle lasted, how the battle ended as if it was a knockout or surrender, and the 5 winners will be ranked according to their total score. The one with the least score will be eliminated and the first 4 will go to the semi-final. Since Miss Selena withdrew from the tournament for personal reasons, we will select a random participant among the 9 and send him or her directly to the semi-final, Ishihara said. The commoners sighed hearing the news, but the nobles did not seem surprised. They expected Selena to leave the tournament. Everyone knew it wouldn't have been her choice, rather her family forced her to withdraw from the competition instead of facing Ghost and ended up being killed or worse. Although there were only 1 of 5 chances for Selena to end up facing Ghost, her family didn't want to take the risk. Soon, the giant mirror broadcasted all the 9 participants' figures as each figure had a color coin beside them. For instance, Andrews had the color gold coin while Paul Oswin had a blue coin. 9 participants were assigned 9 coins. When the mirrors broadcasted Michael's figure, the entire arena once again let out their thunderous cheers. Coincidentally or intentionally, he was assigned a black coin. Under the crowd's excited gazes, 9 bright orbs emerged from the battle stage. In a few seconds, the bright light faded away to reveal the palm-sized coins. Her Royal Highness Catherine would pick the lucky participant who will go to the semi-final without competing in the quarter-final. He or she will also be safe from the elimination, James Hall said. While the coins were floating in a circle, one of the coordinators landed before the coins with a wooden box in his hand. He picked the coins one by one and put them into the wooden box. The coordinator then flew towards the stage where the princess was sitting alongside the king and the other VIPs. Who do you think will get the lucky chance, guys? Ishihara asked. It's luck, Ishihara. We can't predict luck, James Hall said while the coordinator was flying towards the princess. Some would call it luck, some would call it fate, Darius said in his rough voice. The arena was rather silent as they were too focused on the wooden box. They wanted to see who is the lucky one. Many prayed that the princess wouldn't take the black coin. They wanted to see Ghost fight. Unlike many young masters, they knew they can't see Ghost fight very often. Until this tournament, many didn't even know he could fight. He was the least controversial prodigy in Elon who liked to mind his own business and make fewer enemies. Please be Andrews, Imelda prayed to the gods while Diana prayed to be her son. She didn't want Andrews to get on the same stage as Ghost. The last thing she needed was her son to kill his cousin. After destroying Sky Hall and everyone who would hurt her son, Diana wanted him to have a family that he never had. Your Royal Highness, the coordinator bowed his head slightly, handing over the wooden box to Princess Catherine. Despite the thousands of eyes on her, Catherine sported a smile on her face. No one except a few didn't know she was praying to pick the golden coin, which was Andrew's. It took a few moments for her to grab a coin in the wooden box. Even though she couldn't see the coin she grabbed, she just hoped it would be the golden coin. I'm excited, Ishihara giggled. Everyone's gaze was on the princess as she slowly retrieved her hands from the wooden box. Black coin. Many gasped in shock, including the princess herself. Catherine's heart skipped a beat looking at the black coin in her hand. Drops of sweat formed on her smooth forehead. He got one step closer to marrying her. If Andrews couldn't defeat Ghost, her father would announce that he will marry her to Ghost. Catherine would rather die than marry that monster in human form. It's decided then. Ghost will go to the semifinals directly, James Hall said as the participants felt relieved. After seeing what he did to Alex and Peter, none of them wanted to face him in a battle. Andrews, on the other hand, had a mixed feeling. He was glad that he didn't have to face Ghost in the quarterfinal, but he was troubled thinking that he needed to eventually face him. Now, without further delay, let's begin the quarterfinals, Darius' voice reverberated through the arena. As usual, the body-strengthening stage warriors came to the battle stage to pick their opponents while core formation participants were busy strategizing. It's time for us to witness the final fight of the day. The crowd wasn't as excited as before when the last fight had Ghost. Let's have thunderous cheers for our competitors, Paul Oswin and Andrew Winston. Andrew has become the dark horse of the competition, guys, Ishihara commented while waiting for Andrew and Paul to come to the battle stage. Yes, it's really stunning to see a runemaster with level 3 core formation stage cultivation to come this far, Ishihara nodded as James Hall continued. Many commoners even root for Andrew. People seem to love underdogs. I can see a resolution in Andrew's eyes. It's like he's fighting for something valuable and bigger than the championship title and the rewards. Darius' words echoed in Catherine's mind. Andrew was fighting for her, no one knew that except her. Humph, underdogs are good for entertainment but not for life, King Breedia snickered. He wanted Ghost to win the tournament so he could make him the Baron of Bradford Barony and marry Catherine to him. If Ghost married Catherine, he knew Ghost would protect his daughter as a good husband should. No matter what, he would only marry his daughter to a warrior who could protect Catherine in all situations. The last time Andrew fought, he didn't seem like an underdog to me. He defeated his opponent with a single spell, Ishihara reminded everyone of Andrew's third-round fight. Ghost had the longest fight with Peter and Alex while Andrew had the shortest fight. James Hall paused for a moment and continued. Everyone knew Noah Winston. The moment James Hall uttered the name Noah, the entire arena shook in thunderous cheers. The commoners screamed his name as loud as they could. The three commentators had to go silent for a few moments. Michael had the undying support of Rivertown because he took care of Rivertown, a small town. Noah, however, helped and took care of several small towns, villages, and hundreds or even thousands of commoners in his life. After becoming a guardian, he had the authority and the resources to really help people as well as punish the evil. Hence commoners loved Noah. The admiration towards Noah was still growing up among the commoners. Andrew's cousin is a warrior prodigy, but no one knew Andrew was just as talented as his guardian cousin. They were both blessed with specializations too. After the cheers died down, James Hall spoke. They are here. Before Ishihara could speak about Paul Oswin, both the participants landed on the battle stage. I always thought I would end up fighting your cousin but never thought I would face you, Paul smiled. He didn't radiate any pride or haughtiness or arrogance. Life is strange that way, Paul. The spell you used earlier, was that a legendary one? Many people gasped in shock just by hearing the word legendary. Even nobles leaned forwards to hear Andrew's answer. I was not that fortunate, Paul. It was an epic spell. I enhanced it with a few runes. Paul's brows arched up as he nodded. He then looked up at the coordinators. Shall we start the battle? I have places to be, Paul asked the coordinators before turning his gaze back to Andrew. There is no shame in surrendering, Andrew. We, Oswins, have a wedding in our family, so starting it with murder will be a bad omen. I will give you the same advice. Paul. Andrew's words didn't make Paul mad as many expected. He just smiled. Unlike many other young masters in prominent families, Paul avoided making unnecessary enemies. He forced on cultivating and minding his own business. Because of his character, some loved him while some loathed him in the Oswin family. Let's begin the battle. Michael will be back on the. This chapter needed to be written to let the story flow smoothly. If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 365. After the bell rang indicating the start of the battle, both Andrew and Paul took out their weapons from their space rings. A longbow materialized in Paul's hand while the quiver appeared on his back with a bunch of silver arrows. The bow looked no different than any ordinary longbow without any magical symbols or glowing runes on them. Yet no one underestimated the power of the bow after seeing Paul defeat all of his opponents easily with the bow. On the other hand, Andrew took out his 2 emerald green daggers. Unlike Paul's bow, the daggers had glowing runes on them. There were hundreds of small runes placed on the daggers. One of them was the rune that connected Layla's power to Andrew. No one could see through Andrew's cheat. Layla was a master at runes and arrays. Hence she knew how to avoid getting detected by the arrays on the battlefield. The arrays on the battle stage were actually designed by one of the students who studied under the same tutelage as her. Layla knew her attacks wouldn't work on Ghost, but she made some modifications to the runes on Andrew's daggers. She believed it would defeat Ghost. Deep down in her heart, Layla wanted Ghost to be a good righteous man instead of being cruel and evil. She didn't want him to change for her but for someone else. The first step to changing him was making him understand the power of true love. Although Andrew had her power, she knew that without strong willpower, his mind and body would have literally exploded. It was love that kept Andrew alive. On the battle stage, Paul knocked a silver arrow in the bowstring to fire at Andrew. He didn't cast any spells but just wanted to test Andrew's reaction time and speed. Ice Shield. Andrew immediately cast a spell that formed a wall of ice before him. The arrow penetrated the ice shield a couple of inches but couldn't break the shield. Sonic Arrow. Without giving Andrew to mount up an offensive spell, Paul fired another arrow. This time, when the arrow left the bowstring, it produced a booming sound as it soared through the air towards Andrew. Andrew immediately leaped out of the safety of the ice shield. The moment the sonic arrow touched the ice shield, the shield exploded into pieces. Instead of falling to the ground, the arrow flew back into Paul's hand like a boomerang. He fired the arrow yet again at Andrew. Ice Shield. The shield spell could be cast quickly, hence Andrew cast the spell again to save himself from the arrow. Since Andrew had the power of Layla, the shield stopped Paul's arrow from penetrating through the shield to impale Andrew. The ice shield grew up to 7 feet from the stage. Using the split second before the arrow destroyed the shield, Andrew placed a rune on the shield. Then he dashed away from the cover of the shield. Unaware of the rune, Paul fired the arrow yet again. The arrow pierced through the air like a bullet. When the arrow's tip touched the ice shield didn't explode but the arrow bounced back. Paul didn't expect the arrow to bounce back. But before he could react, the arrow exploded in the mid-air, sending a shock wave at Paul. The rune was supposed to send back a portion of the attack's power to the attacker. Since Andrew had the power of Layla, the rune almost returned 100% power back to Paul. It was like Paul hit himself with the sonic arrow. Paul was knocked back by the shock wave as Andrew dashed at Paul to close the gap between them. Because Paul was an archer, Andrew knew getting closer to Paul would put him in a disadvantageous position. While running towards Paul, Andrew drew symbols in the air as the crowd saw golden runes appear in the air before disappearing into the battle stage. They saw similar runes when Peter fought Ghost. Many doubted Paul could break the runes as Ghost did. Seeing Andrew running towards him, Paul immediately tried to take another arrow from his quiver but he was too late as Andrew leaped into the air. Gates of Valhalla. Cling! In the mid-air, Andrew shouted as he smacked the 2 daggers together. Suddenly Paul felt an immense pressure on him, like he was being crushed by an invisible mountain. Arg, cough, cough. Paul caught up blood as the pressure increased by multiple folds. At this point, Andrew almost came down on him with his full might. Paul tried to move his body, yet he couldn't move at all. Meanwhile, lying on the bed, Michael was watching the battle in a 55-inch mirror. He felt like watching television back on Earth. So Layla is somehow enhancing his power. Interesting, Michael snickered. Don't underestimate Layla. The system can sense some changes in the energy patterns. Although these energy patterns cannot kill you, it can still harm you, the system informed Michael. I'm pretty sure you can make me immune, for a price of course. But do you want the system to make you immune? You want to cheat? Isn't Andrew cheating right now? If it wasn't for Layla, Andrew would not be here. Besides, I have bigger things to worry about than dealing with Layla's bitchiness and petty feuds. Michael turned the pages of Lord Information's book to learn more about Thusia. Are you thinking about taking the guild leader position? The system was more talkative than usual. Michael was too focused on building a revenge plan against Thusia to mind the system's talkative nature. Not thinking. I already decided to take the position of guild leader. Aren't you supposed to take revenge for Abraz as you promised him? Oh. Then how about we go to Thusia tomorrow, ask the princess and her royal family to kneel down and let me kill them, he said sarcastically. Sarcasm much, no shit. According to this book, they are already powerful enough to wipe out Breedia and any kingdom in Elon within a few weeks. Those bastards are just dragging the war to hide their true power. Just thinking about Thusia made his blood boil. He could vividly see the princess sending a dagger through his heart that she promised to take care of. Abraz gave the princess his heart and she put a dagger through it. Still, Michael didn't know Abraz was just another piece of his soul. I can use their resources to become stronger and I can plan my revenge under their nose. Keep your friends close, your enemies closer system. Calvin didn't recognize you but the princess will. And now you can't change your face as Calvin had seen your original face. Abraz always sported a clean-shaven look with long hair. When I have to meet the princess, I can go with a long Viking beard and short hair. As far as they are concerned, they killed Abraz. They won't expect to see him again. While talking he looked at the mirror to see Paul and Andrew still fighting. Paul seemed to be in a worse state than Andrew. Paul's sleeves had been torn away as he had blood coming out of his mouth and nose. They have the cosmic stream host. The more time you waste, the stronger they would become, the system warned Michael. Then I will become stronger. If I wanted to kill that bitch and her family, I would have done it by now. I don't want to kill them, death is mercy for them. What are you planning to do? In his anger, Michael failed to notice the fear in the system's voice. I will make the princess and everyone they care about experience hell. I don't like to torture people, but I will make an exception for them. I will enjoy every second of it. Anyone who stands in my path will die. Thusia will burn. The entire room became darker as he spoke. The system noticed his strength slowly increasing. In this world, many cultivators are doing evil shits every day. But the Guardians painted me like the manifestation of evil, the Dark Lord. I will show the Guardians what I am really capable of. Michael stood up from the bed as he walked towards the mirror. May gods have mercy upon Thusians, 'cause I want, at this exact moment, a large tree could be seen on a lonely mountain. The large tree stood alone atop the mountain. One could see a figure tied to the tree. The figure was more like merged with the tree itself. The figure's face was covered in moths, mud, and blood. He had a gray beard and shaggy hair. His body was riddled with scars as though he was cut thousands of times by someone. My God is here, the figure smiled, looking in the direction of the Elon continent. Back in Michael's room, he was staring at the mirror as Andrew stood beside Paul with his daggers against Paul's throat. I surrender, Michael heard Paul utter the words. The crowd erupted in cheers as Andrew plummeted to the ground in exhaustion. In the giant mirrors, Michael saw Imelda clapping in joy with tears of joy running down on her face. He then saw the crowd cheering as loud as they could for the underdog of this tournament, Andrew. Even Claire and the elders of the Sunrise sect were clapping to show their support without having any idea of how Andrew managed to beat Paul. Ding! 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 Suddenly, before the coordinators helped Andrew and Paul leave the stage, 3 loud bell sounds reverberated the arena. The view of the battle stage immediately changed to the VIP stage in the mirror. They all saw King Breedia stand up with a grin on his face. "Please," he raised his hand as the crowd immediately became silent, "I have an announcement to make. The winner of the Core Formation Championship will be rewarded with the title Baron along with Bradford Barony. For people like Ashton, it wasn't a piece of surprising news, but for commoners, it was another story." Many sounds of gasping could be heard in the arena. The king stayed silent for a few moments before speaking again. "And the hand of my daughter, Princess Catherine, in marriage. If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts, as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments." Chapter 366. On this cloudy morning, there were growing patches of blue, the sort of hue that was soft and bright at the same time. Though beneath the sheet of cloud was a gray that deepened to steel, the leading edge was a brilliant white, as if it was the pages of a new book ready for any curious eye. So, on this day that could bring rain or sunshine, no one in the arena except the VIP guests and commentators remained in their seats. Their eyes were glued to the battle stage. In the center of the battle stage, 2 figures were laying on the floor. One was completely bathed in blood from head to toe. The other one was no different than the other, except he knelt on the battle stage on one knee. Anyone could tell he was about to tumble down any second. The figure laid on the ground was Dukan, a rogue cultivator, while the other was Andrew. This was the first fight of the semi-final, which would decide the finalist. As Andrew was fighting with everything he got to stay awake, the coordinators landed on the ground to check on Dukan. "Knockout!" The coordinator's voice echoed through the arena as the crowd erupted into cheers for Andrew. "Andrew has entered the final. He has made history, reaching the final with the lowest cultivation level. That kid really put up a fight. I'm really impressed," followed by Ishihara and Jameis comments. Darius also praised Andrew. The entire arena was shouting Andrew's name as the fireworks decorated the sky along with their thunderous exploding sounds. Princess Catherine quickly wiped off the tear running out of her eyes before anyone could see her watery eyes. "Andrew! Andrew! 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 Andrew!" The crowd kept chanting Andrew's name. Surprisingly, their cheers gave Andrew a little bit of strength to stay still instead of falling onto the ground. The fight between Andrew and Dukan went for almost an hour and a half. Although Andrew had the power of Layla behind him, Dukan fought strategically, which made defeating him difficult for Andrew. Andrew was a Core Formation Level 2 Runemaster, while Dukan was a Level 6 Core Formation Warrior. Many thought this match was the end of Andrew's journey, as the power gap between them was too wide. However, Andrew proved everyone wrong and defeated Dukan. Andrew almost died defeating Dukan. Andrew has proved to us that the willpower can overcome the cultivation level difference. Even if Andrew couldn't win the tournament, his name will be remembered for years to come. James Hall praised Andrew. "He will be an inspiration for many cultivators. His journey will show the others that one can overcome a cultivation difference with willpower and courage." Ishihara joined James Hall in praising Andrew. The Winstons felt extremely proud of Andrew at the moment. At first, they all doubted him and even tried to stop him from competing in the tournament. Nonetheless, Noah vouched for Andrew and gave his support. Even Andrew's mother Natalia didn't want Andrew to participate, as she was afraid of him getting hurt. Natalia was the softest among the 3 Hunt sisters. Regardless of Andrew's reasons to compete in the tournament, Natalia tried to stop him because she couldn't even think about losing her son. Help them reach the infirmary. The coordinators lifted Andrew and Dukan and flew towards the infirmary. Eventually, after a team of maids cleaned up the blood off the battle stage, the crowd became excited again. Since the next fight would decide the finalist who is going to fight Andrew, the crowd was on the edge of their seats. Moreover, they were excited to see Ghost. "It's time for the battle we've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen," Ishihara announced. "And don't worry, people, the battle will not be stopped if it rains." Hearing Darius' voice, many sighed in relief. The sky was filled with dark clouds and everyone could hear thunderclaps in the distance. Heavy downpour was evident, but no one wanted the rain to interrupt the battle. Participant Reagan and participant Ghost of Sunrise Sect, please come to the stage. The moment Ishihara uttered the name Ghost, the arena once again let out thunderous cheers. Almost 2/3 of the arena were bouncing up and down, showing signs boards that had the letters "We Love Ghost," waving black flags as well as Sunrise Sect flags, and shouting Ghost's name as loud as they could. Even those who hated Ghost, such as Morningstar disciples, became jealous of the support and cheers Ghost received. As the fans were cheering, Reagan landed on the battle stage with a swift leap. Reagan was a tall man, standing 6'2" tall. This bronze-skinned man had a really tough feel about him. A particularly notable feature was his muscular build. His hip length, shiny, light brown hair, currently dip-dyed at the ends with shades of sky blue, features a messy fringe. He has a uniquely styled, perfectly trimmed beard. His square face with brown eyes didn't show any emotions looking at the cheers for his opponent, Ghost. Waiting for Ghost, Reagan flicked his wrist as a 7-foot war hammer appeared in his hand. Unlike the other participants, Reagan wore no armor to protect himself. He just wore leather pants adorned with gray fur and long snakeskin boots. Layla was watching Reagan with the other commoners. She was in a battle with her heart and mind. After talking to her mentor and contemplating what happened inside the treacherous ocean, she understood that Ghost was to be blamed completely. She knew it was her impulse that led to the first energies occupying their bodies, which led to spirit walking. He had no choice, her mind told her that, but her heart was burning in fury. He took her purity, her heart couldn't accept it. After threatening him of destroying everyone he cares about, she felt disgusted with herself. She knew she acted like a first-class hypocrite. How could she call him evil after she herself threatened to kill innocents? The fact she couldn't hurt him at all made her feel weak and helpless. She hated the feeling of being weak. In front of him, she was exactly that. Initially, when she came to the tournament, she wanted to tell Ghost about something important that could change both of their lives forever. However, after seeing Ghost's cruelty, ruthlessness, and bloodthirsty nature, she decided otherwise. Ghost. 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 Just as she was thinking the cheers couldn't get any louder, the arena erupted louder. The figure of Ghost in the giant mirror stopped her train of thoughts. Weirdly, Ghost reminded her of Noah. Only Ghost didn't have the warmth and kindness that Noah had. Michael slowly descended onto the battle stage after winking at Nightmare, who was enjoying the battle sitting on Claire's lap. He was a majestic, fearful dragon, but when he was with Claire, he would turn into a puppy. Because Reagan was a rogue cultivator, except for a very few, no one knew or heard about him before. Coupled with the fact that Reagan always ended up with opponents who were weaker than him, didn't raise any support for him. Despite the bodybuilder-like physique of Reagan, Michael was not even a bit worried. Reagan was just a core formation level 6 warrior after all. Instead of unsheathing his 2 swords, Michael put his hands behind his back and looked at Reagan with a smile. Despite most people's opinion about rogue cultivators, I respect you guys. I was one of you before joining the Sunrise Sect. Michael's voice was amplified by the runes to let everyone hear his voice loud and clear. You didn't survive this long by fighting every battle in your way. Your life depends on every fight you pick. So don't pick a fight you can't win. The crowd was not stupid not to understand the meaning behind Michael's words. He was telling Reagan to back off. His words were on the border of threat and advice. Many nobles expected a rugged man such as Reagan to get mad at Ghost for speaking these words. However, Reagan just sighed as the war hammer in his hand disappeared back into his space ring. You are right, we rogues need to know when to back down. Reagan let out a sigh as he continued. This is a battle I cannot win. Michael nodded with a smile. I hope you remember me, Ghost. Anyone who isn't my foe is my friend. Michael's words put a gentle smile on Reagan's face. He looked around the arena for a while before slowly ascending to the air. I hope we will meet again, Ghost, Reagan said while floating in the midair. He then looked at the coordinators around him. I forfeit, Reagan said before flying away from the arena. People were stunned to see Reagan quit like this. He decided to quit before even exchanging a few blows with Ghost. Many thought what he did was a shameful act and an act of cowardice. Guys, what just happened? Ishihara's brows arched up. What do you think? Reagan forfeited the battle, the coordinators murmured among themselves while the crowd was looking at Ghost speechlessly. Even Ghost supporters was unable to believe what just happened. They were expecting an exchange of blows, not words. Ghost wins, the coordinators announced. It took a few moments for the crowd to open their mouths again to cheer. They were stunned. Catherine's heart skipped a beat listening to the commenters announce that Ghost had reached the final. When the crowd finally began to cheer, Ghost already left the battle stage. This was the shortest semi-final they all had seen in their lives. Ghost just came, said a few words to Reagan and made him forfeit the battle. Unlike Andrew, who shed almost all of his blood, Ghost had entered the final without even breaking a sweat. I hope you don't mind being called Lady Ghost, Kathy. King Breedia leaned closer to Catherine's ears and said with a chuckle. This is it, my dear readers, the chapter before the finals. Andrew versus Michael will begin from the. If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 367. After the semi-final round between Ghost and Reagan, the commentators announced a 6 hours break before the final of Body Strengthening Stage Cultivators. In the final, Sabrina faced Victoria. The final battle lasted for an hour before Sabrina overpowered Victoria and defeated her. The battle between the girls kept everyone on the edge of their seats. Even Ashton, who wasn't very interested in the tournament, watched the fight without batting an eye. Many expected Sabrina to give a speech after winning the championship, while the commoners wondered what would be the rewards. However, Sabrina just said thank you to the crowd and left the battle stage. Taking the Pegasi carriage offered to her by the Holy Trident Academy, Sabrina flew towards where Andrew was staying. The sun had almost disappeared into the horizon when she reached the manor where Andrew was staying. Young miss, when her carriage landed, quickly few of the guards staying outside guarding the door came to open the carriage door. They bent forwards to show their respects. Andrew inside? Yes, young miss. Sabrina hastened inside to meet her cousin, leaving the carriage under the care of the guards. At first Sabrina thought winning the championship tournament would make her feel pleased, or at least something, except it didn't. Although she fought with Victoria for almost an hour, she didn't use her full power. If she had defeated Elia, she knew she would have felt different. However, Sabrina could not think about anything at the moment except her cousin's condition. She hastened inside the home. Entering the manor, she walked straight to the hall where she saw Andrew with several people standing around him. She expected Andrew to be in his room taking a rest. Instead, she found him surrounded by people. Andrew was resting on the sofa while Imelda had her hand on his shoulder. She was consoling him. Sabrina saw her mother, Aunt Imelda, a hooded person who stood in a corner of the hall, Alicia and Norvin. Sabi, Imelda was surprised to see Sabrina enter the hall. All of their gazes, including Andrew's, fell on Sabrina. You won? Diana asked as though she already knew the answer. Sabrina gave a small nod before walking towards Andrew. Shouldn't you be celebrating your win right now, Sabi? Andrew asked with a gentle smile on his face as usual. He tried to hide his worries with a smile, but Sabrina could see through the facade. I know why you are worried, Andrew. Andrew raised his brows as Sabrina smiled. Dad isn't very good at keeping secrets from me, Andrew. Don't you know that? I know that, Andrew sighed as he chuckled. How is your brother Ollie? Sabrina asked Alicia. Alicia remained silent. The healers said they could only heal the physical wounds, not the mental ones, Norvin answered instead of Alicia. Sabrina sighed. What Ghost did to him was cruel and ruthless. However, Sabrina also knew Peter brought it on him by himself. No one asked Peter to dress up as a vigilante to ambush Ghost and other prodigies just to prove he is better than them. Time will heal everything, Imelda said. Alicia nodded, but she knew the mental wounds of Peter would never heal unless he could defeat Ghost and humiliate him as Ghost did to him. Andrew, I am asking you again. Are you sure you want to do this? Diana asked Andrew. Is there any other way we can convince Catherine's father? Imelda asked a question after Diana. can Catherine tell her father she loves you? Sabrina asked. Andrew was getting bombarded with questions until Alicia opened her mouth. Why is everyone talking like he's going to lose? When we all, including me, thought Andrew couldn't do this, he came this far and proved us wrong. He will defeat Ghost, have some faith in him. Everyone was speechless for a few moments. They couldn't argue with Alicia's words. It's because I cheated, suddenly Andrew said, stunning everyone. Cheated? What are you talking about? Imelda creased her brows. Except for Diana and Alicia, everyone looked flabbergasted. Alicia knew about Noah's deal with Layla and her involvement in Andrew's victory. Diana, however, didn't know anything about Layla or Noah's deal with her, but she was able to tell that something was amiss. If it wasn't for Lady Alden, I wouldn't have reached this far. Lady Alden? Layla Alden? Sabrina literally started to shiver hearing the name. Without your mental resolution and willpower, you would have died taking my power. They all heard the melodious voice as they turned their eyes towards the hooded person. Sabrina saw the hooded one taking off her hood, covering her head to reveal her angelic face. Sabrina felt like she was going to faint. The woman in front of her was Layla Alden, one of the legends of this world. She had only seen Layla in the paintings in her Holy Trident Academy. Layla was a pride of all woman cultivators. She was the embodiment of woman power. How far would you go for the girl you love, Andrew? Layla asked as everyone stared at her in shock. I give my life for her. Slap. The moment Andrew finished speaking these words, a slapping sound could be heard in the hall. Sabrina was stunned to see her always gentle and warm Aunt Imelda slap Andrew. No one could believe he got slapped by Imelda. Are you really prepared to give your life for a girl you know for how long? A year? Or 2 years? What about us, your family? What about your mother? Imelda was stuck between worry and anger. Her eyes were bloodshot. You're gonna quit whining, go out there and defeat Ghost. Cheating or no cheating, you will defeat him. You know why? Because you have us. Her words did not motivate Andrew but somewhat calmed the storm within him. If you can't defeat him, don't be stupid to fight till you die. Just say you surrender and we will figure out how to deal with everything that follows later. Norvin gave a piece of advice of his own. Unlike Imelda, Norvin doubted Andrew could really defeat Ghost. As much as Norvin wanted Andrew to defeat him, he was less optimistic about that. Diana was in a world of her own thinking. All the people in the room thought Ghost was some kind of monster. Ever since he was born, he has faced nothing but tragedies. And he faced everything life throws at him alone. She didn't know why they called him the Dark Lord when there are hundreds or even thousands of evil cultivators who are capable of great evil roaming the work as they speak. Meanwhile, in Michael's room, he was sitting in front of Calvin reading several parchments on the glass table. Feel free to tell me if you have any changes to be made, Calvin said with a smile. No changes required, Calvin. I hope you guys will have my back when the time comes. Michael inked the quill to sign the parchments as he spoke. Don't worry, King Bredio won't go to war with you if you choose to reject the princess. Michael looked up at Calvin with his brows arched up. Michael was surprised to see Calvin grasp the upcoming problem without any explanation. Like I said, I did my research. I know you are not going to accept the marriage proposal. Naturally, rejecting a king's offer would result in problems. But worry not, Thusia will have your back. This time, it'll be the one stabbing you in the back, Michael thought to himself. It will be a pleasure to work with Thusians. As he said, Michael signed his name on the parchment. With this sign, he had officially become the guild leader of the Thusian Alchemy Guild. Finally, Michael stood up to shake Calvin's hands. Welcome aboard, Ghost. After shaking Michael's hand with a wide grin on his face, Calvin handed over a space ring to Michael. This contains some welcoming gifts from Thusia Ghost. I hope you like them. The final day of the tournament began with a drizzle. The dark rain clouds filled the sky like marching soldiers. The thunderclaps in the distance implied the upcoming heavy downpour. The arena was filled with chit-chat from the fans. Not a single person who wasn't in the conversation of who would win the championship. Of course, many voted for Ghost while only a few voted for Andrew. Welcome to the finals, ladies and gentlemen. Ishihara's announcement finally brought down the volume of their chit-chat. But only for a few moments though, as the crowd yet again erupted into cheers. It has been a roller coaster ride, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think, guys? James Hall asked. I think we better start the final before they start a riot, Ishihara giggled. Before we start the final, let us see the journey of the two finalists. Andrew Winston and Ghost. After Darius spoke, the giant mirror began to broadcast the highlights of both Ghost and Andrew's battles. Seeing both of their battles gave goosebumps to the commoners and raised their expectations to another level. The highlight reel went for almost 15 minutes. Looking at the reels, Alicia once again shivered in anger. She wanted to destroy the mirrors to oblivion when they showed Ghost mopping the floor with her brother. What disturbed her more was the people who roared seeing Ghost's ruthlessness. Sitting on her throne, Catherine clenched her fist tightly. Her heart pounded against her chest looking at the vial in her hand. The king was too focused on Ghost's highlights reels to notice the vial in his daughter's hands. Finalists Andrew Winston and Ghost, please come to the battle stage. The entire arena was shouting the names Ghost and Andrew to show their support. The majority of the crowd was waving black flags. Under their thunderous cheers, Andrew appeared above the battle stage and slowly descended onto the battle stage. Andrew ignored all the cheers to focus on the upcoming battle. Ghost. 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 While Andrew was trying to ignore the shouts, he heard the arena erupt in cheers. He looked up to see Ghost slowly descending onto the battle stage with his black long coat fluttering in the wind. Unlike Andrew, Ghost seemed calm with his usual smile on his face. Shall we start, Andrew? If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 368. The distant howling sound of the wind coupled with the thunderclaps gave off an ominous feeling. The violent wind made waving the signs and flags difficult, yet the wind couldn't completely stop them. Michael's long black coat fluttered in the wind behind, revealing the black turtleneck and the lines of his chest and abs. After asking Andrew, Michael looked up at the coordinators. Guys, can we start the battle now? I have a barony to look, except for a very few. None of them thought of him as arrogant. Ding. 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 Let the battle begin. As though the coordinators were working for him, they started the battle. Andrew stared at him with his two daggers in his hands. He was expecting Ghost to cast a spell. After watching all of Ghost's fight and strategizing with Layla and Sabrina, Andrew was somewhat prepared. Andrew, instead of unsheathing his swords, Michael smiled at Andrew. Dude, you can come up with new ways to get what you want instead of this. Regardless of what Noah did to the Silent Reaper, Michael didn't want to hurt Noah's family. They were nothing but good to him. He knew Layla was kinda using Andrew to prove to him that nothing's stronger and purer than love. He couldn't understand Layla's logic completely. This is the only way, Ghost, Andrew said as Michael sighed. So be it. Michael began to walk forward towards Andrew. He didn't cast lightning dash or any spell, he just walked towards Andrew without even taking out his swords. Gates of Valhalla. Andrew didn't waste any time. He immediately cast one of the strongest spells he has in his arsenal. The whole arena was silent as only the thunderclaps and the howling sound of the wind could be heard. They were staring at Michael and Andrew without batting an eye. The commentators were going about, but Michael or Andrew didn't hear what they were saying. Claire was looking at Andrew with pity. Reflective shield. Michael just uttered the word while walking towards Andrew. When Andrew cast Gates of Valhalla on Paul Oswin, he was crushed by immense pressure. However, when Andrew cast the spell on Ghost, nothing happened. Ghost was just a few meters away from Andrew, Emerald Thorns. After competing in a couple of life or death battles, Andrew's thinking and reflexes became quicker. Hence, instead of being stunned by the uselessness of the Gates of Valhalla, Andrew cast another spell immediately. From the two daggers in Andrew's hands, Michael saw emerald green spikes coming towards him like arrows. There were numerous spikes the size of an arrow pierced through the air to impale him. Andrew was shooting like he was holding two machine guns that fired spikes rapidly. Standing among the crowd, Layla's eyes began to water up. She spent months creating runes that could change her energy patterns so she would not be defenseless against Ghost. She used those runes to give Andrew the ability to fight against Ghost, hoping it would hurt him. Yet, neither the gates of Valhalla nor the emerald thorns couldn't even graze him. Imelda's heart was pounding against her chest as Ghost got closer to Andrew. Ethan was rubbing his temples, hoping Ghost would go easy on Andrew. "Oh no, he's in trouble," Norvin said with a grimaced face. Ice shield. Andrew cast another spell to slow Ghost in his path. Michael saw a 7-foot wall made of ice erupt a few meters before him. The wall seemed to be at least a meter wide and looked sturdy. Everyone, including Andrew, expected Michael to destroy the wall using a spell or his fist. Unexpectedly, they saw Ghost deviate from the straight line he was walking on and walked around the wall instead of destroying the wall. Andrew, who placed an explosive rune that would bounce the attack power back to the attacker, had a troubled look on his face. All the opponents Andrew faced got defeated by either of the 3 spells he just cast. The spell had Layla's fusion stage power behind it, hence, a core formation cultivator couldn't take the attack of Andrew. However, Michael was immune to Layla's attacks. Therefore, Andrew, who had Layla's power, couldn't even touch him. "Without Layla, he's as weak as a blind sick puppy," Michael sighed inside. He actually felt pity for Andrew. After realizing long-ranged attacks were not working, Andrew changed his tactic. He activated the runes on his dagger as several golden symbols began to glow on the daggers. "Don't do it, Andrew," Diana mumbled under her breath, looking at her nephew leaping higher into the air to attack Ghost with his daggers. Since Andrew would not be able to learn swordsmanship in a few weeks, Noah taught Andrew how to fight with daggers. It had been a big help to Andrew in the tournament against other opponents. But Diana knew against a swordsman like Ghost, who seemed to have mastered the swords, Andrew was like a child. Seeing Andrew descending upon him, Michael just shook his head disappointedly. The people were on the edge of their seats. Just when Andrew was a couple of inches away from him, Michael grabbed Andrew by his wrists in the midair. Andrew lost his momentum and control when Ghost grabbed him. His movement was extremely fast as Andrew didn't even see Ghost move his hands. Andrew's feet touched the ground. He looked Ghost in the eyes while struggling to get out of his hold. "If there's a next time, don't depend on others to fight your battles." Andrew felt his heart skip a beat hearing his words. His words sounded as though Ghost knew he was cheating in the tournament. Chuck. The very next moment, Andrew felt immense pain in his head. The crowd saw Ghost head but Andrew so hard that the sound of their head clashing reverberated through the silent arena. Michael slowly trusted Andrew's wrists as Andrew's face muscles began to twitch in pain. He head-butted Andrew again without giving him much time to let out a cry of pain. A sound of bone cracking could be heard when Ghost head-butted Andrew. In the giant mirrors, they all saw Andrew's nose bent weirdly sideways as blood poured out of his nostrils. If it wasn't for the excruciating pain in his wrists, Andrew would have fainted. The world around him started to spin. Most people expected Michael to break Andrew's wrists, but he proved them wrong by slamming Andrew on the ice shield. Andrew erupted. Boom! The booming noise sounded across the arena while pebbles of ice crumbled down due to the force of Andrew hitting the wall. The force and pain immediately made Andrew cough up blood. Ghost slammed him again on the ice shield like Andrew was a rag doll. When he slammed Andrew the second time, the rune Andrew placed on the wall glowed as the ice shield exploded with immense force. "Andrew!" Imelda shouted from her pavilion. The ice vapor prevented the crowd from seeing what happened to Andrew and Ghost for a few moments. When the fog created by the ice vapor faded away, they saw Ghost was standing beside Andrew, who was lying on the ground, coughing up blood. "Give up, Andrew," Michael said, looking at Andrew at his feet. He didn't even use a fraction of his power. Nonetheless, Andrew was almost at death's door. To Michael's surprise, Andrew pulled himself up after failing to stand up a couple of times. Seeing Andrew really surprised Michael. Andrew was indeed resilient. Still, Michael just shook his head before grabbing Andrew by his neck. Half of Andrew's face was covered in blood and swollen. "Taking a beating doesn't solve your problems, Andrew." Despite Andrew being his opponent, Michael advised him. For some reason, Michael felt bad for beating up Andrew. Perhaps it was because the Winstons were good to him, perhaps it was because he pitied Andrew. Nevertheless, he punched Andrew in the face. He didn't use much power as he didn't want to mess up Andrew's brain. As long as he could, he wanted Noah and Winston's not to be his enemies. I will never surrender. These words barely escaped Andrew's mouth when Michael stopped punching him. You're not helping yourself, Andrew. The crowd saw Michael clench his fist as veins popped up on his fist. The crowd gasped. They could guess the next punch would be several times more powerful than the previous ones. If this was a movie or a drama, Andrew would have gotten a sudden power boost thinking about his love and escaping Michael's hold. Since it was not the case and Andrew had no powerful being inside his ring, Andrew couldn't even move a muscle. He could just hope he wouldn't lose consciousness. Space warp. Suddenly Michael heard a shout. In a blink of an eye, his hair neck stood up sensing a threat. He immediately let go of Andrew to leap into the air. In the mid-air, he bent his back and landed on the battle stage comfortably. When he landed on the battle stage, he saw Princess Catherine standing in the place where he was a moment ago. She held Andrew in her hand. Tears kept rolling out of her eyes. Andrew, please wake up. It's Kathy. The entire arena was stunned by the act of the princess. Even the commenters or the coordinators expected Princess to suddenly appear. Not even the arrays could stop her interference because the short teleportation spell she just used was a legendary spell. Michael saw a silver dagger in Catherine's place. His killing intent rose up, realizing she would have killed him if it wasn't for his reflexes and instincts. Catherine. Finally, the king realized what just happened. He stood up from his throne along with all the VIPs beside him. No one remained in the seats anymore. The princess caught everyone off guard. I am going to kill you. Michael along with the entire arena heard the princess let out a murderous grumble. Chapter 369 Princess, you are nothing, your majesty. The king's guards quickly surrounded King Breedia when he tried to rush to the battle stage. The coordinators on the other hand were stunned to see the sudden appearance of Princess Catherine. Since she used a powerful legendary level teleportation scroll, they weren't aware of her arrival. Just as the coordinators were about to land on the battle stage, the princess leaped at Ghost with her daggers raised. Andrew could barely lift his hand towards Michael. He wanted to utter the words "don't hurt her," yet failed to do so. You monster! She shouted, swinging her daggers at Michael. Seeing the princess trying to attack Michael, Nightmare bore his teeth. Claire felt the dragon's body becoming hotter and hotter. Little 1-inch Claire brushed the dragon's head to calm him down. Claire wasn't worried about Ghost, she was worried about the princess. All the nobles in the VIP pavilions along with the commoners stood up from their seats. They all were either too excited or worried about the princess. Monster me? Michael chuckled while evading the dagger easily. You heartless bastard, she was shouting while violently swinging her daggers. Michael just kept moving his body with his hand behind his back. He could see the king flying towards the battle stage with his royal guards. You have the courage for this but not for talking to your father? Michael snickered, swiftly moving his body away from her daggers. He moved like water, swift and smooth. Kids shouldn't play with these. Michael suddenly flicked the princess' wrist as she lost the dagger. In a blink of an eye, he made her lose another dagger with another flick to her wrist. See how weak you are. Michael threw the daggers outside the battle stage. Stop! The king's shout echoed through the arena. The princess' body froze. Her anger slowly faded away while she started to come back to reality. The king's royal guards immediately surrounded the princess. They were all at the core strengthening stage level 8 and wore full metal armor from head to toe. At the moment, they all surrounded the princess, staring at Michael through the hole in their helms. Michael didn't dare to hurt the princess as it would turn the entire Breedia kingdom against him. However, that didn't mean the princess would escape without paying the price for trying to kill him. Kathy. What is the meaning of this? The king's facial muscles twitched. He shivered in anger. Since everything went into a chaotic state, the coordinators paused the battle. Immediately, Sabrina flew to the battle stage along with the Winstons. Ghost 1. Standing in the Rivertown Pavilion, Ricky, the sneaky bastard, shouted, riling up Ghost's fans. Soon, a few disciples followed Ricky's shout, then a group started to shout, and in a few moments, entire fans of Ghost were shouting in unison. Ghost 1. Ghost 1. Ghost 1. Ghost 1. Ghost 1. The badass points began to go up yet again. I love Andrew. The prince's shout, however, sounded louder than the cheers. The cheers immediately stopped after hearing her words. You can't make me marry another man. I will rather die than marry this monster. The king was too stunned to utter another word. In his whole life, he had never seen Catherine act the way she was acting at the moment. You're nothing but a heartless bastard. Not even his parents wanted him. They threw him away like a piece of trash. How can I marry this piece of trash? Since Catherine couldn't hurt him with daggers, she started to spew hurtful words. Diana couldn't help clenching her fist. She wasn't the gentle Diana in her heart anymore. Harriet Hunt, who was buried within her heart, had returned. She wanted nothing but to rip off the prince's throat. Me? Piece of trash? Michael asked after realizing the king wouldn't say something to shut her daughter. He was too stunned to utter any words. No matter how strong you become, how rich you become, you will never be someone like Andrew. You will never have the last name. You will always be someone who was abandoned by your parents. Michael was getting really pissed off at the princess. He had nothing to do with their little scheme. If he was Andrew, he could have found 100 ways to get King Bredia's permission instead of depending on Noah and Layla to do something impossible. Of course, Michael had to give credit to Noah to put together a plan that would have gotten Andrew what he wanted in a short amount of time. If it wasn't for him, Andrew would have won the competition. If anyone should be blamed, it was Layla. As far as Michael was concerned, she should have told her vulnerability against him to Andrew or Noah. Let me go, Nightmare grumbled. Claire's hands began to hurt due to the heat Nightmare radiated. There was no doubt that if she let go of the dragon, he would go burn the battle stage in fury. Even the gentle Claire began to feel anger boiling inside her after hearing the prince's words. Ethan creased his brows. He wanted to shout as loud as he could that Ghost is his son, not an orphan. However, he knew if he did that, the entire Sky Hall would come down on his son with their full power. Sky Hall wasn't something anyone could win against. Even the great clans wouldn't go against the Sky Hall. While the princess was cursing at Michael, Sabrina made Andrew drink a healing potion. The wounds on the outside and the internal wounds gradually healed up as Andrew slowly opened his eyes. TSK tisk TSK, Michael shook his head with a narcissistic smile on his face. He looked around the arena before turning his gaze back at the princess. Even though I am an orphan, I have an identity. The core disciple of the Sunrise sect, a prodigy, a man who reached the 100th step in Heaven's Gate competition, and, Michael paused for a moment to look at the crowd once again, the 5-star alchemist of Bredia. His cold voice sent a chill running through everyone's spines. The smile on his face finally disappeared as he stared at the princess. Without that princess title, what are you? Humph, Michael snickered. Many gasped, hearing Michael's question. There was no fear in his eyes. No one would dare to disrespect a princess in public, yet Ghost did exactly just that in front of her father, the king, and thousands of people. Michael wasn't afraid of the king anymore. He now had two major powers behind him, the Kane family and the kingdom of Thusia. Take away that princess title and you are nothing, not even a piece of trash. Nothing, the princess shivered in anger. Even when Ghost was beating the crap out of him, Andrew never felt any anger towards Ghost. However, hearing him distract the girl he loves, Andrew's anger exploded within him. Catherine. King Bredia's shout reverberated in the arena. He was too mad at his own daughter to the point he failed to get mad at Michael for disrespecting her. Perhaps the king deep down knew the princess deserved what she got after cursing Ghost and acting like a spoiled brat. I am not a puppet, you can marry me to whoever you want. Catherine stomped the ground. I will marry no one but Andrew. I am not afraid of you anymore, father. Catherine lost all her composure. Her attitude and her words made King Bridia's body tremble in overwhelming fury. Guards who stood closer to the king could hear the king's teeth-grinding noise. His breathing got heavier and faster. "You will marry this man," King Bridia pointed his finger at Ghost. Michael was so annoyed by the father and daughter duo. This was supposed to be settled inside walls, but the princess brought the family matter to the eyes of the public. Not only that, they dragged him into the middle of their family feud. In the corner of his eyes, Michael saw Calvin give him a nod, wordlessly expressing his support for Ghost. And just when Michael was about to reject the princess, Catherine began to chuckle as tears began to roll out of her hazel eyes. She looked at Andrew, who was being held back by Sabrina and Imelda. "Forgive me, father," she said, looking at King Bridia. Then she turned her watery eyes towards Andrew. "I hope I will get to live with you in the next life, Andrew. Please forgive me." As she said these words, a purplish vial appeared in her hands. "Kathy!" Andrew shouted as she dashed forward. No one knew what was inside the vial, but anyone could tell it was not something she should drink. However, it was too late, as she already chugged the entire vial. Some of the royal guards tried to stop Andrew while the others caught the princess, who was falling. "No! Kathy!" King Bridia and Andrew dashed at Catherine, shaking all the guards around them. In the giant mirror, the crowd saw Princess Catherine's rosy skin slowly turning purple. Blood oozed out of her nostrils, mouth as well as her eyes. Her body violently twitched. "Healers!" King Bridia fell to the ground and lifted his daughter's head. Andrew also came to the prince's side. He held the prince's hand. The king was too worried about his daughter to mind Andrew. "No, no, no, don't leave me." Tears rushed out of Andrew's eyes. His tears watered Catherine's face. Seeing his daughter's body twitching violently in his arms, King Bridia's heart ached in pain. The flashes of him holding the princess for the first time when she was born flashed across his eyes. That was the happiest day of his life. At the moment, he was not a king but a failed father. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. Unlike Andrew and the king, Michael wasn't shedding any tears. He was looking at the princess with a blank expression. As far as he was concerned, they could just hold a funeral on the battle stage. He couldn't care less. All he wanted was the rewards, the barony. He had a few plans for the Bradford barony. If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts, as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 370, Healers. Both Andrew and King Bridia screamed as loud as they could. "Move!" Suddenly a melodious voice sounded through the battle stage. The royal guards immediately tensed up, looking at the hooded figure slowly descending from the sky. In the mid-air, the figure removed the cloak to reveal her angelic face. Looking at the face in the giant mirrors, hundreds of gasps sounded in the arena. Layla Alden, Ashton's brows raised up. After landing on the battle stage, she walked towards the princess. "Stop!" However, the royal guards shouted at her to stop. They didn't know who this woman was. They perceived her as a threat to the king. In a blink of an eye, a majestically crafted vina materialized in her hand. Ding! Her rosy slender finger played one string as a powerful sonic wave hit the royal guards. The royal guards flung away from the battle stage as though they were hit by a powerful storm. The wave only targeted the royal guards, hence, the others remained on the battle stage. "Who are you?" King Bridia asked with a shivering voice. "Lady Alden," Andrew shouted as a mix of relief and joy hit his core. He heard Noah talk about Layla's healing powers. Guards. King Bridia's mind went black seeing the purplish body of his daughter. He didn't want anyone else to harm his daughter. He was acting crazy in others' eyes. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, King Bridia. You asked for healers and she's the best." Ashton finally opened his mouth. The wielder of angels Vina, Layla Alden. King Bridia felt a chill running through his spine. He had heard about the legend of Layla Alden but never thought he would see her in real life. Finally, a small sliver of hope emerged in his heart. Ignoring all the shocked faces, Layla walked straight towards. She knelt on one knee beside Catherine. The princess' rosy smooth skin had completely turned purplish. Her body wasn't twitching as it was a few moments before. Layla placed her hand on Catherine's forehead and closed her eyes. Please, please save her, Andrew mumbled while sobbing like a little child. This is too stupid, overdramatic, and illogical, Michael thought inside. It was not as he would have married her on the spot. He had everything figured out. He would have rejected the king's offer to marry the princess, and then, the king would have been forced to either postpone Catherine's wedding or choose Andrew, the second finalist, as the groom. It would have worked out if it wasn't for Andrew and his group's little idiotic scheme. While Michael was thinking how stupid they were, Layla opened her eyes. She took one of the deadliest poisons in this world, the venom of a five-headed serpent. Layla sighed. That's problematic. The king and Andrews turned their gazes towards Ashton to see him also sighing. Problematic is too weak a word. She's at the death's door. No shit, Michael chuckled inside, but as she heard his mind voice, she gave him a death stare. Michael just winked at her as she quickly turned her gaze away from him. You can save her, right? Andrew's voice was breaking up in overwhelming sadness. He could barely utter these words through the lumped throat. She took the venom of the female five-headed serpent. I can keep the poison from killing her for an hour maximum. If you want to save her, you need to find a male five-headed serpent, get its venom, make an antidote and give it to her. All within the hour of time. Guards. The king shouted for the royal guards. They still couldn't pick themselves from the ground or fight the dizziness after being hit by Layla. Take everything you need and bring me a male five-headed serpent. The king shouted the order. It's not that simple. King Breedia. Calvin shook his head. He didn't feel pity but pretended to be sad. Michael could see through Calvin's facade. Calvin might have put on a grieving face. Inside, he couldn't care less about what happened to the princess. Five-headed serpent is a rare creature which can only be found in the deepest pits of the fire realm. Even if someone goes the fire realm within an hour by some luck, finding it and killing it within an hour is impossible. Just as King Breedia would shout at Calvin for being negative, Ashton also sighed. He is right. It's impossible. I don't care if I have to send an entire Bredian army to the fire realm. I will not let my daughter die here. King Breedia held Catherine's close to his chest. Even if you find everything in an hour, brewing the antidote would take longer than an hour, Layla said. Andrew and King Breedia felt their hopes die within them when they heard Layla. She was the best healer in the world, yet even she didn't seem like she could save Catherine. No, Catherine, you can't leave me, you all I have left in this world, the king cried. Many commoners couldn't help shedding tears looking at the scene. It was a tragedy and everyone felt sad. Unless you have me. Suddenly they heard Ghost's voice as everyone turned to look at him. Michael smiled, flicking his wrist as a chair appeared on the battle stage before him. He sat on the chair backward and looked at the king, Andrew, Layla, and the Winstons. Sitting in front of the king without asking his permission was a crime in Breedia. It was a sign of disrespect towards the king. Thus, the king could imprison Ghost if he wanted to. However, Michael knew when to back off and when to show his claws. The king would do anything for his daughter. At this moment, Breedia wasn't the king, it was Ghost. How far will you go to save your daughter, your majesty? He asked the king with a smile. What do you mean? The king was confused. Let me rephrase my question. Sitting on the chair, he flicked his vest once again. The very next moment, a glistening silver vial appeared in his hand. Looking at the vial, Layla opened her mouth, decided not to speak anything, and closed her mouth. A long time ago, Ethan and Diana found a five-headed serpent poison antidote in a ruin. They could tell that the vial in their son's hand is several times purer than the antidote they saw. There was no doubt in their minds that the vial in Ghost's hand could save the princess' life. If it was Noah, they knew he would have given the vial no matter how priceless it was to the princess to save her life. Ghost's smile on his face made them doubt he would give the vial without getting something in return. What price would you pay for this? The antidote that can save your daughter's life, that's, how, what? The king mumbled as Andrew stared at the antidote without batting an eye. He was speechless. Wow, that's really the antidote. Calvin's words brought King Breedia out of his confused state. Once again, the light of hope emerged in everyone's heart. Give me that. The king reached his hand out. Tisk tisk tsk. Michael shook his head. Are you telling me that the princess' life is worth nothing? Guards. The king's fury exploded within him. He shivered as he called for the royal guards. This time, they were only a few meters away from the battle stage. Suddenly the vial cracked in Ghost's hands. The king and Andrew's hearts skipped a beat seeing the cracks forming in the vial. With a little bit more pressure, they knew the vial would crumble into pieces. No! Andrew shouted. I will give you everything, please, give her the antidote. Shut up, Andrew. You have nothing to give me. This is between me and His Majesty. Layla didn't even try to talk to Ghost. However, her heart was aching to see how heartless he was. He can't be my child's father, Layla said to herself. The hopes of changing him into a better person slowly began to die inside her. Despite what he did to her, she wanted to give him a chance for the sake of her child. She knew how hard it would be for a child to grow without both parents. She didn't want her child to feel that pain, but it seemed like her child would be better off without Ghost as the father. Michael knew nothing about what was going on inside Layla's mind. His gaze was on the king. How could you play with your daughter's life again, Your Majesty? You know this vial is so delicate. What if it got destroyed when your royal guards come running to me with their heavy armor? What do you want? King asked, gritting his teeth. Although he was burning with anger, he knew that his daughter's life was more important than his anger. The king was willing to pay any price to save his daughter. She's dying. Imelda couldn't keep her mouth shut anymore. You're holding her life as a bargaining chip. How? She began to stutter in anger. Could you be so heartless? Me heartless? Michael tilted his head. Just a few minutes ago, Her Royal Highness tried to kill me. You all heard what she said to me. Still, I'm willing to give the antidote to her instead of keeping the antidote a secret. I almost died getting this. And you're calling me heartless? The entire arena knew he was holding the princess' life as a hostage. No one in the right mind would believe he's not a cold, heartless bastard. Yet he talked like a kind, generous person. Many people were looking at him with their mouths wide open. Your Majesty, I only want you to keep your word. I want what's rightfully mine and a few other things. I don't want to make the princess' life cheap. It's not fair. Michael was having fun with the king. He couldn't care less about what others would think about him. The princess tried to kill him. The king stood there watching Catherine spew hurtful things. Andrew tried to take away what should have been his. Michael wanted everyone to pay the price. Throne doesn't make you a king, power does. Michael snickered inside, looking at the helpless, desperate king in front of him. Any idea what Michael would ask from the king? Chapter 371. Everyone single one in the arena had their eyes on Michael. They were waiting for what he was going to ask the king. No one let out a sound. If someone dropped a pin right at this moment, it would make a loud sound. The arena was deadly silent. Michael stood up from the chair, put his hand behind his back, and took several steps towards the edge of the arena. I don't give a damn about who wins this tournament, all I care about is the rewards. So as you promised, Your Majesty, I want the Bradford barony. No one gasped hearing his words as they did after his next words. I want you to announce Bradford, the river town, and all the surrounding areas as an independent kingdom ruled by me and the Sunrise sect. Ashton knew Ghost is an opportunist and power-hungry young man, but when he heard Ghost just ask the king to make him a king, he felt goosebumps. Calvin, on the other hand, praised Ghost wholeheartedly. If King Breedia let go of Bradford, the river town and the surrounding areas as Ghost asked, it would certainly make Breedia weaker. However, the king had no choice unless he was willing to let Catherine die. Any weak kingdom was a prey to be hunted and merged into the Thusia Empire. Hence, Calvin supported Ghost's claims. We have to do something, Peyton. Arrest him and make him give up the antidote, Zanali growled, looking at Ghost. As a guardian, Peyton wanted to stop Ghost from toying with the princess' life. Yet even without Peyton's complete realization, the seed of hatred towards Noah sprouted in her heart. One could not blame Peyton. she dedicated her life to Guardian Guild. Unlike other beauties, she had no boyfriend, she didn't have fun, she didn't host galas or balls, she only focused on serving the Guardian Guild. In return, she expected the guild to treat her fairly. When everyone thought Lucifer was just a run-of-the-mill psycho killing people at night, she was the one who suspected him to be a big threat. She put together the operation that led to the destruction of his base and almost caught him. Instead of her getting praises and the rewards she deserved for the work she did, Noah ended up leading the team. Moreover, the Alpha Guardian was talking about making Noah a Guardian Captain instead of her. She was 14 years old when she started to work for the Guardian Guild. What she couldn't get in 14 years, Noah got that within a year. It was not fair, she thought. If we interfere, he might destroy the antidote. This is between him and the king, but Peyton, I said this is between him and the king. Her voice sounded colder as Zanali quickly closed her mouth. On the other hand, Claire and the elders were speechless. Claire wanted to stop Michael, ask him to give the princess the vial first, and then negotiate with the king. Claire wasn't as hypocritical as the others. She very well knew the princess had no right to berate Ghost like she did. In the future, if he needed that antidote, he wouldn't have one. There was no need for him to give that vial for free. However, Claire pitted the king and Andrew. She wanted Ghost to first save the princess and then negotiate with the king. But she was also not as naive as she used to be. Her mind told her that if Ghost gave the king the antidote, there was no way the king would give him everything he asked. The king could even arrest him for negotiating with him. She's dying. Elder Sandra tried to stand up but was stopped by Elder Reiner. Did you all forget that the princess tried to kill Ghost? If he was 1 second slow, it would be him lying on the stage, Elder Reiner said with his usual bright smile on his face. Elder Reiner, we teach our disciples humanity, kindness, and forgiveness. What he's doing is against everything we stand for. Claire was in a conundrum hearing the conversation between Sandra and Reiner. Both of them seemed to be in the right. Look at the king, he's not the king of Breedia anymore, he's just a desperate father. We should help him, Elder Sandra said. Elder Sandra, Elder Reiner yet again stopped her by holding her wrists. Do you remember the times we went to meet King Breedia asking for a loan? Elder Reiner's question brought back some bad memories. Claire especially gritted her teeth. The elders lost pity for the king after what Elder Reiner asked them. Let me refresh your memories. The king of Breedia, His Majesty asked Claire to be his concubine. Do you want me to spill out what he really wanted? The smile on Reiner's face disappeared. For the first time in their life, some of the disciples saw Elder Reiner looking cold. He was always a warm, kind and witty person. And do you want me to remind the times the king ordered us to accommodate a part of the Bredian army who harassed our female dispels and raped some of them? Elder Reiner's words got colder and colder. He didn't give a damn about those girls. Those girls were traumatized for their life. 50 gold coins, that's what the king gave them. Kindness, humanity, and forgiveness is for only those who deserve it. Elder Sandra was out of words for a few moments. We can't let the princess suffer for what her father did, she's innocent. She tried to kill Ghost because of love. Meanwhile, Michael was looking at the king's trembling. Each second passed by, the king's worry overshadowed his anger. A kingdom obviously can't survive without financial and military power. After all, Your Majesty won't feel good if someone else took away something you generously offered. Michael paused for a second, looked at the people staring at him with wide-open mouths, and continued, I won't ask for much but 1/3 of the Bredian army and financial support for a full year until we get back on our feet. The king almost spurted out blood hearing his outrageous requests. Financial support he could provide as Breedia was a preposterous kingdom. However, giving up 1/3 of the army would weaken the military power. I also want a peace treaty with Your Majesty. We can't have some stupidly loyal general wage war against my kingdom, can we? Some of the people of Bradford were worried about his request. They were worried that they would be led to poverty under the rule of a cruel, ruthless person like him. However, the people of Rivertown were incredibly joyful and excited. They knew their life was much better after Ghost joined the Sunrise sect. He wasn't even a ruler of the town, yet he did so many things that the king never bothered to. I won't ask for anything else except for a little tour around your Majesty's treasury. Since I'm giving such a valuable item, I'm sure your Majesty would want me to take something else in return. Her condition is worsening, Layla said, looking at Catherine's body twitching violently. Ghost, please, I beg you, give me the antidote. Andrew pleased. I will, I'm just waiting for His Majesty to agree to everything I asked. I will, give me the antidote. King Breedia yelled, but Michael shook his head. I want the official documents with your sign, your Majesty, you bastard. The king couldn't keep his anger contained. Relax, your Majesty. What if you throw me in jail after getting the antidote? It's better we go with official documents, am I right, Calvin? Michael turned to look at Calvin. Nod. Of course, documents are better than just words of agreement. Meanwhile, Catherine's were violently twitching as purplish blood oozed out of her pores. The purplish blood painted her body purple. Ghost, it will take time to draft documents. Can't you just take His Majesty's words? Ethan asked, trying to convince Ghost. He didn't want his son to make an enemy out of the king. Although he still couldn't believe how cruel and ruthless his son is, he didn't want Ghost to become an enemy of an entire kingdom. Calvin, Michael turned his gaze away from Ethan to Calvin. How long will it take to draft the official documents for His Majesty to sign? If you desire, I can draft the documents in 15 minutes, of course, Michael snickered inside. Earlier, when he signed the parchments related to the guild leader position, Calvin did not bring with filled parchment but just wrote the clauses in front of him. Thus, Michael knew Calvin could come up with documents before Catherine died. King Breedia, shall I start preparing the documents? Calvin asked. His inner corners of the eyebrows were angled up. He was really good at pretending to be sad. No. I can't, the king mumbled under his breath. What Ghost asked was not something he could give up so easily. The nobles and the people would definitely cause a massive headache if he agreed to Ghost. It might even throw the kingdom into chaos. At first, he wanted to say okay, get the antidote, save his daughter and come up with something to prison Ghost. That way he could have said he won't negotiate with a criminal. However, if he signed official documents in front of thousands of people, Ghost would become a ruler of another kingdom. King Breedia had no power over another ruler. Plus, if he signed the documents, Ghost would get 1/3 of the Bredian army. Coupled with the Kane family's support, Ghost would be untouchable. Even if he waged war against Ghost, Breedia would still lose their remaining troops. It would result in weaker Breedia. Lady Alden, how long can you hold off the poison? Layla didn't even want to look at his face, still he answered him for the sake of Andrew and the princess. 20 minutes, King Breedia's heart was pounding against his chest. He started to sweat as he shivered, cutting it close. Tick-tock, your Majesty, tick-tock. If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 372, You cruel bastard, the king growled. He felt utterly helpless. He wanted to rip the antidote out of his hands and hang him right in this instance. Kathy was right, you are a monster. After everything that happened, the king had realized why Catherine chose to take her own life instead of marrying Ghost. Although King Breedia never wanted to marry Catherine to anyone except a warrior, he would rather marry Catherine to someone like Andrew than Ghost. The king could see the love, care, and grief in Andrew's eyes. It was pure love. The king blamed himself for not asking Catherine who she wants to marry. It was his anger and stubbornness that made his daughter drink poison. The smile that lingered on Ghost's face suddenly disappeared. He knelt on one knee before the king. Your Majesty, do you think I don't know what you asked in return for a loan my elders asked a year ago? His voice suddenly sounded colder. You tried to use their desperation to take sect leader Claire as your concubine. And we both know what concubine really means to a person like you, except for the elders of the Sunrise sect and a few nobles who were very close to the king. No one knew about the king's request. It was Jack who told Michael about the request. At that time, Michael didn't know he would meet the king in person and negotiate with him over the prince's dying body. Since Claire was an exceptional beauty, Michael knew it was natural for people like the king to court her. However, when the king tried to act innocent and called him a monster, he decided to let everyone know the king's actual innocence. The king was speechless. Something made the king shiver inside looking at Ghost's eyes. He felt like a beast looking directly into his soul, waiting to devour him alive. The king felt so weak before him. And should I remind you of the time you offered 50 fucking gold coins as a remuneration for the girls who were raped by your soldiers who stayed at the sect due to your order? Michael patted the king on the back before standing up. If you care about them so much, you should have found a way to punish him, but you're punishing an innocent girl. Imelda raised her voice before Andrew's. Innocent? Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, to all of their surprise, Michael burst into laughter. It was the princess who decided the price of 50 gold coins. 50 gold coins, not for each, but to all 8 girls. They were supposed to share the coins among themselves, based on what? Who was raped worse? What the actual fuck? Many commoners gasped in shock. Those who felt pity for the princess and hated Ghost now seemed to see the princess in a new light. The princess decided a girl's innocence was with 7 or 8 gold coins. No one is innocent in this world. Everyone is a villain in someone's eyes, but, Andrew mumbled, what? If the roles were reversed and the king had the antidote, do any of you think he would have offered it to me for free? He looked around the arena to see no one nodding, so why should I? Ghost, right at the moment, Calvin brought the documents. He handed over the parchments to Michael. Finally, Michael took away his gaze from the king to the contents of the parchments. He read the entire 10-page document in a minute. I don't have to prove anything to anyone here. It's your majesty who has to prove your love. You can either sign this and save your daughter or watch her slowly die in your arms. The choice is yours. Michael threw the parchments towards the king. I assume you have 10 minutes to decide. Your majesty, sign the damn thing. Andrew took the parchment from the ground before throwing it on the king's face. The king's hands shivered. On one hand, he had his flying daughter, on the other hand, he had something that would divide his kingdom and probably throw the kingdom in chaos. Your majesty, this is no time for thinking. Please, sign them and save your daughter, Ethan said, with his shivering hand. The king finally signed the document. His heart was pounding against his chest. Ricky was feeling goosebumps along with the other disciples. It seemed like only yesterday he saw a full black-clothes youngster at the gates of Rivertown. Now the youngster was about to become a king of his own kingdom. He wished Daniel was here to witness this historic moment. Hail your majesty, Ghost. Ricky couldn't hold back as he shouted as loud as he could. Hail your majesty, Ghost. 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 Gradually, one by one, the people of Rivertown and the Sunrise sect disciples roared in unison. Ignoring the shouts, Michael reached his hand out as the parchments flew straight into his hands. He checked the documents for a few moments before nodding with a smile. Keep the end of your bargain. Layla reached out her hand. Of course, Michael threw the antidote to Layla. Kid, you became a king. Ashton was still in shock. He never expected the tournament would turn out to be like this. He rejected the princess to gain a kingdom of his own. Moreover, he had also gained 1/3 of the Bredian army to command. King Ghost, it does have a nice ring to it. While Clavin, Ghost, and Ashton were busy discussing the future, Layla gently poured the antidote into Catherine's mouth. The moment the antidote touched Catherine's lips, her body jerked. Soon, her body gradually started to lose the purplish color as her skin slowly turned rosy again. Kathy. The tears of joy poured out of both Andrew's and the king's eyes. Everyone was looking at the princess, waiting for her to open her eyes. Only Diana looked at her son, Ghost. Most people, including her own sister, were thinking of him as evil, but they failed to understand that if it wasn't for her son, the princess would have died. He saved her. Catherine. Andrew saw Catherine slowly open her eyes. She looked at Andrew and then the worried face of her father. Father, you brat. King Bredia embraced so tightly and close to his chest. Andrew couldn't wait to hug her, tell her how much he loves him and how much she just hurt him by trying to take her own life. Their union of love continued for a couple of minutes before Catherine saw a ghost reading a long parchment seriously without even taking a look at her. Slowly she started to wonder how they managed to save her. She was told it was nearly impossible for someone to save her after drinking the five-headed serpent's venom. Layla stood up as Andrew thanked her, holding her hand. Sabrina quickly came to stand by Layla's side. The Winstons surrounded her. Layla couldn't just chase them away. As a person who trained to fight evil, Layla developed a seventh sense that indicates her most evil being. Aside from evil beings, she could all sense darkness in someone's heart. When she first met Ghost, she sensed the darkness in his heart. However, she ignored it as everyone in the world had darkness in their hearts. Weirdly, except Noah. She didn't find any darkness in his heart. In the corner of her eyes, she noticed Diana Winston staring at her. Surprisingly, Layla felt a chill. "You." Catherine gritted her teeth. "It's okay, Catherine, everything's fine." Andrew patted her shoulder. The king didn't mind Andrew. He had already decided to marry Catherine to the man she truly loves, Andrew. "Hey, a princess," like nothing happened, Ghost smiled at Catherine. Catherine saw he was brimming in joy. His face was bright as someone lit a candle inside his head. The royal guards as well as her father stared at Ghost with their bodies shivering. Deep inside her father's eyes, she saw immense worry and anger. She could tell that something big had happened while she was unconscious. "Father, what happened?" "Ghosty," everyone heard a childish voice as they saw the dragon land on Ghost's shoulder. It was not as big as before but shrunk its body to the size of a grown eagle. Claire sent off little Cindy to her mother before the final. Claire didn't want Cindy to see Ghost ruthlessly beat the hell out of Andrew. The little girl had seen enough blood and gore for her age, Claire thought. Following Nightmare, the elders and Claire came flying towards Michael. Since they all reached the core formation stage, they could fly without the help of flying swords. Except for Elder Reiner, who had a wide grin on his face, the others looked stunned. Michael could see the reluctance in their eyes. Master Ghost, Ricky, came to his side on a flying sword and landed beside him. "Oh, forgive me," he quickly knelt on one knee. "Your Majesty," Ashton chuckled lightly before patting Ghost on the shoulder, "you have a lot to deal with. But come by the manor in 3 days, we will hold a gala celebrating the marriage. You must come, of course, Lord Ashton." Lord Ashton immediately took off, disappearing into the skies. Soon, Calvin also left the stage before further mingling himself with the king's problem. Although Calvin wasn't afraid of King Breedia, he was afraid of Layla Alden. In Layla's eyes, he saw a glimmer of anger towards Ghost before, when she looked at him. Calvin didn't want to get onto her bad side by being too friendly with Ghost. "We need to talk." Just as Michael was about to talk to Claire and the elders, he heard Layla's voice. All the eyes on the battle stage and the arena turned back to look at Layla and Ghost. Some guessed Ghost just made Layla mad enough to get his ass kicked. "Can we talk later?" "I am kinda busy here," many gasped in shock. They couldn't believe he was actually ignoring a country-toppling beauty. Most of all the men in Elon would die to just have a short conversation with her, yet Ghost shrugged her off. Layla, however, didn't say anything more but came to his side. She grabbed his elbow. In a blink of an eye, she took off into the sky with Ghost. Nightmare couldn't even understand how he landed on the ground. She was too fast. What just happened? If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 373. The breezes climbed the mountain slopes until the air became cool enough to condense its vapor to drizzle. On the mountain top, the rocky peak, everything beneath seemed so small yet beautiful. Michael and Layla landed on this lonely mountain peak. Along with thunderclaps, the streams of lightning on the horizon indicated the coming heavy rain. Layla stood on the edge of the mountain peak, looking at the distant horizon. Michael remained silent, expecting Layla to speak whatever was in her mind. As though she was battling a war inside her, she opened her mouth, took a deep breath, and closed her mouth again. I assume you don't bring me here for sightseeing, said Michael. I need to tell you something. No shit. Michael took several steps forward to join Layla on the edge of the mountain peak. Layla turned her head sideways to see his calm face. She just stared at his face for a couple of minutes before finally letting out a heavy breath. I am pregnant with a spirit child of yours. Michael almost fell down from the mountain top. His calm face immediately took a 180 turn. His heart started to pound against his chest as he slowly remembered what happened inside the treacherous ocean. System, Michael growled in his mind. What? The system informed you that there is a chance of a spirit child forming inside her. The system made sure the spirit child won't inherit any of your characteristics and talents. The child will see the world in a few weeks. For the first time in a long time, Michael's mind went blank. Since the system told him there's only a tiny chance of a spirit child to form inside her, he subconsciously hoped there won't be a spirit child. Not at this moment, but he never wanted to be a father ever. Every time Gaia talked about having children, he always changed the topic or ignored her. The last thing he wanted was to have a kid and raise that kid in this fucked up world. Nonetheless, fate played another game in his life. Layla, that's what happened between us was my fault. While Michael stuttered, Layla opened her mouth. I know how hard it is to grow up without a father in this world. She turned her gaze back at the distant horizon. The fate and my fault together forced you to be the father of my child. I want to give my child a family, Ghost. I really do. For the first time, Michael saw Layla's eyes tearing up in sadness. Even after he spirit walked her, she was furious but not sad. At least he didn't see her sad. But you can't be my child's father, Ghost. Not after everything I've seen. I would rather raise my child alone than letting the child inherit the darkness inside you. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Michael lost his cool when he heard Layla. Although he was not perfect father material, he couldn't keep his mouth shut when he heard her talk about darkness. You people are talking like I'm the only bad guy in this world. You think Andrew is a saint because he is in love with the princess and was prepared to die for her. His anger towards the people's hypocrisy overshadowed his worry about the spirit child. Andrew killed a guy who never showed any intention to kill him with your help. So according to you, is it okay to kill a guy for love? Layla sensed a murderous aura radiating from him. He was sick and tired of people judging him and branding him as the big villain. The so-called guardians had done worse things than him. If someone ranked the evil in this world, he would certainly be not first, except everyone thinks he's on the top spot. He almost mixed up his Lucifer persona with Ghost when he talked. No one is an innocent ghost. I'm not naive to believe otherwise. But there's something inside you, growing stronger every day. I'm not afraid of you, I'm afraid of that darkness inside you. Michael clenched his fist. Perhaps it was coincident, or perhaps it was influenced by Michael. The sky suddenly turned darker. When you lose to the darkness within you, and you will if you continue your path, I don't want my child to be enveloped by the same darkness surrounds you. After these words escaped her mouth, silence enveloped the mountain top. Except for the claps of thunder, no sound could be heard in the area. With loud booming sounds of thunder, the heavy downpour made its appearance like a sudden guest. The downpour was so heavy that each drop was as large as a cartoon tear, and they fell like gravity had been turned up a notch. In a few blinks of an eye, the two of them were completely drenched in rain. As though the rain had washed off the burning anger inside him, Michael sighed. My so-called darkness won't harm your child, Layla. Layla saw a smile dosed with gloom on his face. You know, I never wanted to have kids of my own. Even with Elia, he looked at the distant horizon. I was abandoned by my parents. The last thing I want to do is to do the same to my kids. But you are right, the spirit child will be better off without me. I never considered that maybe my parents too abandoned me because they thought I am better off without them. The thunderclaps reverberated the mountain top as though they were agreeing with Michael. I know even you don't understand, but if your child asked about its father and why he abandoned him, tell the child I had no choice and I did it for its own good. It is the truth. Michael was almost certain that his enemies would find a way to use the child against him. He was trained to take out any potential enemies before they could become a threat to him. He always abided by this rule. Still, even when he knew the child would be turned against him by his enemies, he decided to let the child be. The child was innocent and pure. He knew how painful it is for a child to grow without a family to feel belonged to, without a mother to love, without a father to guide and protect. Michael had already punished this child by deciding to leave the child instead of being a father to it. He couldn't get himself to hurt the child anymore despite he knew the child might become a threat to him in the future. However, remember this, Layla. He turned back his gaze from the distant horizon to Layla. Protect your child. Layla was threatened by the sound of his grave voice. Protect from who? Me. Another thunderclap boomed just after he said, do not let your child be used against me. My enemies will stop at nothing, and so do I, Michael warned. Although he decided to spare the child, if the child tried to kill him in the future, Michael would end the child's life in a blink of an eye. Even if he didn't, Gaia definitely would. Ghost, for the sake of our child, why can't you just leave everything behind you and come with me? Although she already decided not to let Ghost be a part of the child's life, after hearing him, she tried to change him one last time, for the sake of their child. The tears drops mixed with water droplets rolled down on her rosy cheeks. I can't, Layla, even if I wanted to, I just can't. Like you said, it'll do more harm than good to the child if I'm around. While tears rushed out of her eyes without her control, she saw him walking towards her. He lifted her palm before placing a rather normal-looking chain with a coin-sized sun attached to it in her hand. Maybe if I didn't meet Elia and fall in love with her, we might have ended up different instead of being like this. Layla saw a smile that hid the sorrow in his heart. He picked up the chain as she put it around her neck. She wanted to stop, yet she simply couldn't. The child is lucky to have you as its mother, Layla. Every single fiber in her body wanted to embrace him despite how he made her feel before. All the anger, fury, and everything faded away from her heart in an instant. But before her heart could overpower her mind to make her embrace him, he took several steps back from her. Both of them looked into each other's eyes in silence for a couple of minutes. Then, Layla said, I want something else from you, Ghost. This will be the last thing I would ask from you. Her voice was shaking in a mix of emotions. Ask, I need your blood to give the child a physical body. That dash, her words were interrupted when she saw him unsheath his sword from his back. Without uttering a single word, he cut his palm with his razor-sharp sword. The thick dark blood oozed out of the large cut. A vial immediately appeared in his hand as the blood drizzled into the vial, rapidly filling it with his blood. The vial slowly floated towards her as he turned back. The blood was still gushing out from his hand. Spoiled milk is still white, Layla. Everything you see and believe is not always right. Raise your child, showing it how this world really works, Layla. He looked over his shoulder to give her one last look. Goodbye, Layla. As a strange emptiness and sorrow were filling up her heart, she looked at Ghost disappear into the dark clouds. Chapter 374. The barony of Bradford was built amidst the flora of a mighty jungle and was truly a classic phenomenon. Its appearance was matched by the backdrop of grand forests which have helped shape the barony to what it is today. The trade resources these forests brought were of great importance, but they were also influential when it came to architectural designs, as the vast majority of buildings have been built with many natural elements to keep in line with the forests. The skyline was riddled with either elegant 2-story or majestic 3-story buildings. Life was great in Bradford. It had attracted a lot of attention. A few new cultures had left their mark not just on trade and relations, but also upon the barony's identity. Bradford Barony contained 2 towns, Bradford and Rivertown. The 2 towns were separated by lush vast forest and Hinling River. The main road connecting the 2 towns was well maintained and paved with white stone. Thus, the road was called Pearl Road. Red maple trees stood on either side of the Pear Road as though they were the guards of the road. At the moment, a heavy downpour was watering the maple trees as the trees kept waving in the wind. Except for 2 carriages pulled by Pegasi, nothing could be seen on the road. In one of the carriages was the first king of Kingdom Bradford. Unlike other kings, this king traveled with neither a battalion of soldiers nor a group of royal guards. It's beautiful. Michael pulled the curtain aside to see the dancing red maple trees. The last time he visited Bradford, he flew above the trees. Hence, he failed to see their magnificence. So Ricky, what do you know about Bradford? Michael's question brought Ricky back to reality. He never thought he would become a right-hand man to a king. From a lowly gate guard to the right-hand man of a king, he couldn't believe the turn his life took ever since he met Ghost. "Well, your majesty, the barony." "Shit," Ricky slapped himself in the back of his head. "Kingdom of Bradford has two towns, Bradford and Rivertown. Though they call Rivertown a town, the town was in decline along with the Sunrise sect until you joined the sect. However, Bradford town prospered under the rule of Baron Totonk." Sigh. Michael heard Ricky let out a heavy sigh. "What?" "Your majesty, it's that I feel pity for Baron Totonk, is that so?" Michael asked, gently brushing the head of sleeping Nightmare on his lap. "Rumor has it that ever since Lucifer killed and hanged Miss Jane's body atop the manor, the Baron has lost his connection with reality. People say he has gone mad. What do people say about Lucifer?" Michael asked as he had no idea about Lucifer. The name Lucifer made Ricky shiver. Unlike some cultists secretly worshipping Lucifer as their god, Ricky never wanted to meet Lucifer. The sight of Jane's horribly mutilated body gave him a nightmare. Ricky had seen his fair shares of murders and deaths, but what Lucifer did to Jane was something else. Ricky doesn't blame Baron Totonk for going crazy, as any father who loves their daughter would go mad in his shoes. "Ricky," Michael called him again as Ricky came back to reality. "Some people say he's the devil and wanted the church and guardians to catch him so they could sleep at night again. Rumors have some people are worshipping Lucifer as their god in secret." He. Ricky heard Ghost chuckle from inside. "Your majesty?" Ricky failed to what could possibly be funny about what he just said for Ghost to chuckle. "If you know they worship Lucifer, they are not doing a good job in keeping secrets, are they? If it is true and you know it, the church and guardians know it too. There will be no surprise if both of them hunted these worshippers down." Michael could use these worshippers to strengthen the Order of Death again. However, it was too early to recruit civilians. Next time he streams himself, he might ask for people to stop worshipping him just for their sake. If they continue to worship and end up being hunted by the guardians or the church, they should blame themselves. "Your majesty, when will the army reach Bradford?" "In a week according to the King Breedia." "Your majesty, can I ask you something?" Michael sensed a sliver of reluctance in Ricky's voice. "Sure, were you going to really let the princess die?" "I mean, if his majesty did not give what you wanted, what would you have done?" "The king was lucky I didn't kill that bitch then and there when she tried to kill me." Michael's words stunned Ricky. "Stupid bitch and that stupid asshole." Ricky came with the most idiotic plan. "Good thing you didn't kill either of them, your majesty. Killing the princess would have turned Breedia against you, while killing young Master Andrews would have made Winstons your enemies. You know, the Winstons were nothing but good to the sect. That's the reason Andrew is still alive. But after everything that happened, I doubt Andrew would be grateful to me for letting him live." Michael leaned on the seat, resting his head on his fist. "He should be, your majesty. Although the final ended up without a winner, everyone knew you would have won if it wasn't for the princess' interference. I'm thankful to that bitch though. If it wasn't for her stupid act, I wouldn't have gotten a kingdom." Michael's cold chuckle sent a chill running through Ricky's spine. "Let's talk about you. How is your cultivation going? What stage are you on right now?" Michael could see Ricky's cultivation stage. Still, he asked to see if Ricky lied to him or not. He was thinking about giving Ricky and Daniel some important roles in his kingdom, but before deciding anything, he wanted to make sure they are absolutely loyal. Since he has the system, it was easy to determine their loyalty. He just needed to make them their subordinates. At this level of the system, he could have a maximum of 11 subordinates. He already had Gaia, Raylene, Sadie Kaplan, Arya, Maxine, Azazel and Tiberius. After the tournament, he had more than enough points to completely heal Arya's two brothers. With them, he would have 9 subordinates. Michael was thinking of making Ricky and Daniel the remaining 2 subordinates. Although Ricky and Daniel were not as strong as most of his subordinates, they were loyal to the core and hardworking. From this point onwards, loyalty wasn't the only thing that mattered to Michael. He needed powerful subordinates who could fight his battles for him. In simple words, he wanted to be the final boss. Body refining stage level 10, your majesty. I feel like I can reach the body strengthening stage in a few months. Michael was glad to see Ricky telling him the truth. What about Daniel? Sigh. Ricky sighed again. Poor guy is stuck at body refining stage level 8, your majesty. It was obvious to Michael Ricky and Daniel has no talent for cultivation at all. He had given them hundreds of thousands of gold coins worth the pills and potions. Still, they were stuck at the body refining stage. If it wasn't for the pills and potions, there was no doubt they wouldn't have reached the body refining stage. After we settle things in Bradford, come see me with Daniel. You two are too weak. We need to fix that. Ricky felt goosebumps all over. Everyone in the world loved power, and Ricky was not an exception. If anyone could turn Ricky and Daniel into geniuses, it was Ghost. As the rain showered them from heaven, they made their way to Bradford town where the Baron's manor was located. The people who didn't attend the tournament had no idea that their barony had become a kingdom of its own, and their new king is Ghost of Rivertown. Through the window, Michael saw the city wall in the distance. Nightmare curled on his lap, sleeping peacefully. Ricky saw a bunch of archers standing atop the city walls. Regardless of the heavy rain, they were patrolling on the wall's top. In front of the main gate of the city, a couple of armored guards remained outside. Since the carriages had the flag of Sunrise Sect on top, the armored guards didn't dare try to be arrogant as they waited for Ricky to slow down the carriage. Open the gates. Ricky's voice and demeanor were not of a meek kid anymore. He sounded as though he was ordering the armored guards to open the gates. The armored guards wore helmets covering their faces. Thus, Ricky couldn't see the annoyed expression that appeared on their faces. Michael was waiting patiently for Ricky to deal with the guards. He didn't mind how Ricky sounded. As far as he was concerned, his subordinates should not be spineless cowards. The Baron has ordered us not to let anyone inside or outside, one of the 5 armored guards said in a grumpy voice. Why? Ricky frowned. The Guardians and the Baron are conducting an investigation. It's our order not to let anyone in or out. Unless Baron gives us an order to let you guys in, we can't do anything. Another guard spoke, but he wasn't as grumpy as the guard who talked just a moment ago. Do you know who is inside the carriage? Ricky had the courage to talk to the armored guards with his chest up because of Ghost. He was not the gate guard Ricky anymore, he was the right-hand man of the king himself. Soon these guards would bow their heads to him. Who? The grumpy guard couldn't take any more of Ricky's arrogant attitude. Your king. Chapter 375. The armored guards as well as the archers who heard Ricky were stunned. They were speechless for a couple of moments. They lived long enough to know that the king of Breedia wouldn't come without royal guards and several carriages in front and back. Besides, they received no information about the king coming to Bradford. The last time they heard, the king was going to the tournament. Here, show this to them. Through the gap between Ricky and him, Michael sent the parchment containing King Breedia's seal to Ricky. Michael didn't want to cause any acne by beating the crap out of the gate guards. After all, they were just doing their jobs. Although Michael knew they were just doing their job, he felt the urge to beat them when they were standing in his way. He could feel something is changing inside him. It was a feeling that couldn't be described. Even Spectre and the hitmen of the dark underworld massacred the orphanage Michael loved. Michael didn't torture them. He just killed every single one of them, including the girl he loved who did not inform him about Spectre's plan. Never before he experienced the urge to torture except when he met Calvin. He wanted to torture everyone who betrayed Abras. He wanted to cause chaos. He asked the system about his new feelings, but the system had no answers. Yet, Michael could feel something different about him. The guards saw the young man taking a parchment from whoever was inside the carriage. Since the tournament winner's celebration was meant to be held tomorrow, they never thought Ghost or any participants would come to Bradford. As far as they were concerned, the 2 carriages that have the flag of the Sunrise Sect were occupied by the guests of the sect. Ricky jumped down from the carriage while keeping the parchment under his fur coat to prevent the rain from drenching it. Who knows how to read? Ricky asked as the guards looked at each other. Finally, an archer from the wall slid down from the ladder to come to them. Among the 12 guards in the vicinity, only one seemed to know how to read. Ricky wasn't surprised though. It was not a requirement for a soldier to know how to read or write. Education was for the nobles and the rich. If it wasn't for Ghost's strict order to learn how to read or write, Ricky would have been just like them, illiterate. Here, Ricky handed over the parchment to the archer. The armored guards were staring at the archer and the parchment in his hand. They might be illiterate, but they could tell the parchment definitely came from a royal or noble, seeing the quality of the parchment. The archer opened the parchment carefully to read the content. There weren't even minutes passed by when the archer's hands shivered as his eyes wide opened as though they were about to pop out from their sockets. "What is it?" the other guards asked. Instead of answering, the archer swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Bradford has become a kingdom." The archer's voice trembled. Anne. The archer stuttered, "What?" the other armored guards asked the archer after a few moments of silence. Only the sound of heavy downpour filled the area. The soldiers couldn't believe the archer. Ricky couldn't see the expressions on their faces, but he could guess they were completely stunned using the silence. "Our new king," the archer kept stammering. All the soldiers had to wait for the archer to utter the name of their new king, is Ghost of River Town, as though the skies were waiting for the archer to utter these words. The moment he said the name, the thunderclaps reverberated through the city. "What you are holding is the king's decree and in one of your new king's hands. My first order to is open the damn gates for your king, His Majesty Ghost." The armored guards looked at each other. "Open the gates," the archer said. His look on Ricky completely changed. Each soldier had several questions running in their mind. The soldiers slowly opened the giant wooden gates to reveal the town of Bradford. With a swift jump, Ricky landed back on the carriage. After spending time as Ghost's subordinate, Ricky picked some of Ghost's attitudes. He even started to wear full black clothes like Ghost. As the carriage slowly moved forward, Michael looked at the town through the window. The streets were empty as Michael saw not a single soul on the roads. However, he could see the eyes looking at the carriage from inside the building. When Michael looked at the sky above the town, he noticed several figures in complete golden armor flying away from the town. "Holy guards," Michael mumbled under his breath. Although the church had not intervened in his life as much as the guardians, they were still a threat. He had been trying to establish a connection with the church to see if he could make them his ally. If they were his ally, he could spy on them, learn valuable information and turn them against the guardians. The others, including Ricky, thought Michael had forgotten Jack since he doesn't talk about Jack or his death. In truth, Michael had never even visited Jack's grave, not even once. Gaia took care of Jack's family. They were millionaires now as Gaia gave 1,000,000 gold coins to their family as well as promised to take care of them and their bloodline. The guardians would pay for Jack's death. Everyone involved in Jack's death would pay the price with their lives. "It seems like the Baron and the guardians ordered a lockdown, Your Majesty. But why are there no guards on the streets?" Ricky asked while looking around the town. Like most of the towns or cities in this world, Bradford was also divided into 3 parts. Commoners lived in the outer part of the town. This part also contained shops such as smithy, bakery, and miscellaneous stores. The middle part of the town had lesser nobles who were either declined noble families or branch families of main nobles' families and rich merchants. If one wanted to find a jewelry store or a bank, they should look for them in the middle part. Only the ruler, royal family, and prominent noble families lived in the center. It was the richest part of any town or city. Although the difference between the town parts was not as drastic as royal land or the capital of Breedia, Michael could see the buildings look majestic as they moved towards the center. The last time he visited Bradford, he wanted to open up a shop in Bradford. Unfortunately, Jane Totonk met him in the alchemy store in the middle part of the city. If she hadn't met him that day, she would have been alive. As the Pegasi galloped towards the center, Michael vaguely saw what might be the Baron's manor in the distance through the window. There were several guards in full-plate armor patrolling the surrounding area. The structure, as well as the atmosphere of the manor, reminded Michael of Ham House in England. He wondered how this world has so many similarities with Earth. Inside the Baron's manor, Baron Totonk lay on his throne with a large ale bottle in his hand. There were several ale bottles lying around him. The walls of the throne hall were void of any paintings, but there were signs of paintings hung on the wall before. Only a group of fluffy armored soldiers as well as an old man with a long gray beard remained by the Baron's side. The old man had a wooden staff that had an orb of fire hovering atop. "Lord Totonk, what should we do with them?" the old man asked, looking at the 3 figures kneeling in the hall. All three figures had their hands tied and heads covered with brown sacks. The brown sacks were soaked in blood. Our spies informed that their families have contacted the Guardians and they are bringing them here. Did they tell you something? Baron Totonk asked in a grumpy voice. His eyes were bloodshot. He reeked of alcohol and piss. The noble-looking Baron Totonk they served was nowhere to be found. After Jane's death, the Baron had become a new man. Unfortunately, no, my lord. They seem to know nothing about Miss Jane's demise. Demise? It was a fucking murder, the Baron snickered before smashing the ale bottle on the throne. I don't care if I have to burn this entire fucking barony to find who killed her. Baron Totonk clumsily walked towards the three nobles kneeling on the ground. Lucifer, Goosifer, horse shit. It wasn't the devil who killed her, it was someone in this fucking barony. I can feel him, he's here somewhere. Lord Totonk, when he was about to fall down due to his drunk state, the old man tried to dash towards him to catch him. I'm fine, the Baron raised his hand, stopping the old man in his path. Unlike my baby, tears began to roll out of the Baron's eyes. Seeing a grown man cry like a baby made the soldiers feel a heaviness in their hearts. The Baron may have gone crazy since Jane died, but the soldiers never left the Baron's side. The Baron was a good man. They never thought such tragedy would fall on him. Although Jane was a spoiled brat, she didn't deserve such gruesome death. Even the seasoned warriors felt nauseous seeing her mutilated body. Since these three doesn't know anything, the Baron stood a few inches away from the three nobles. They can go to hell. Baron immediately drew his dagger out as the nobles let out a muffled cry through the sack. Stop. Just as the Baron was about to send the dagger into the noble's neck, the manor door opened to reveal a young man. Who the fuck let you in? The Baron asked as the soldiers moved towards the Baron to put up a defensive formation. By the power of your new king, I'm ordering you to lower your weapon, huh? The soldiers and the old man was stunned after hearing the words coming out of the young man's mouth. Who are you, young man? The old man asked. He could see the courage in the young man's eyes. He lived long enough to tell that this kind of courage was only possible if someone powerful was behind this young man. In one of the hands of the king, His Majesty Ghost. Chapter 376. Ricky's words made Baron Totonk's hangover disappear for a couple of moments. The soldiers and the old mage standing beside the Baron's throne had a "what the hell is this kid talking about" look on their faces. Ghost? The name brought back the memories of Jane trying to convince him to arrest Ghost. The Baron knew she spent the last of her days being mad at Ghost. He was the only one who messed with her and remained unscathed. At that time, his duty as a Baron seemed more important than caring for Jane's tantrum. After she died, Baron Totonk couldn't care less about this barony and his Baron status. In his drunkard state, his anger shifted from the nobles to Ghost. The Baron either interrogated or killed everyone who had the motive and reason to kill Jane except one person, Ghost. Just like Ghost, Baron Totonk also knew lore information. According to the elf, there were some ancient spells that could open a temporary portal connecting the outside world and the nether realm during the 7 days. The Baron couldn't help thinking if Ghost used some means to come outside, kill his daughter, and return to the nether realm. It'd be a perfect crime as no one would believe someone could come out of the nether realm before the opening of the portals. Even if Ghost had nothing to do with Jane's death, by punishing Ghost, he could give what Jane asked him. He thought of this as her last wish. His Majesty Ghost? Ha ha ha, the Baron burst into laughter. Ricky saw his laughter turning eviler by the second. When the rumors began that the Baron had gone mad, Ricky didn't believe it. However, seeing him laugh like this, Ricky started to have second thoughts. What kind of booze you drank? Pfft, Ghost, King, the old mage realized something was going on here as he walked towards the Baron. Erase the king's decree. Ricky was smart enough to realize that if he continued to talk to the Baron, something bad could happen. Ricky saw drunkards start fights for no reason during his time as a gate guard. He quickly retrieved the parchment from his space ring and handed over the decree to the old man standing beside the Baron as he looked calm and composed, unlike the Baron. The Baron took a long gulp of booze while the old man was reading the parchment. Soon after the old man read the parchment for a couple of seconds, a glimmer of shock and surprise appeared in his old eyes. His hands even slightly shivered. My lord, with his eyes wide open, the old mage turned his gaze towards the Baron. My lord, the old mage called again to take away the Baron's attention from the booze bottle in his hand. Smack! The Baron smashed the booze bottle on the head of the noble prisoner before him. Ricky was stunned as he took a step back in fear. He looked over his shoulder, waiting for Ghost to walk into the hall. Ricky kinda started to regret coming here alone. He would have waited outside if it wasn't for Ghost and Claire taking a stroll around the manor to get to know the landscape more, as Ghost would live here after today. He's telling the truth. This is not barony anymore, it's Kingdom of Bradford. What rubbish are you blabbering? Give me that. The Baron pulled the parchment from the old mage's hands. Despite the hangover, the Baron could read the metallic black letters on the golden parchment. Ricky and the old mage both saw the veins on the Baron's forehead popping out. They could hear the sound of Baron's teeth grinding against each other. His body trembled as they sensed a cold murderous aura filling the hall. So this is how they repay me and the Totonk legacy? The Baron said, crumbling the parchment. That bastard. Ricky wondered if the Baron was cursing the king or Ghost. Either way, Ricky knew the Baron would not leave peacefully, not with his current state. There is nothing we can do, my lord. Compared to Ricky, the old man had so much life experience. He could tell for sure that the situation is going to escalate to another level. Although what King Breedia had done was ungrateful and borderline disrespectful, they could do nothing. After signing the parchment, even King Breedia had no power in Bradford anymore. Bradford belonged to no one but Ghost himself, as he is the king from today onwards. Oh, I disagree, Yanob. I can still do this, as he said. The Baron immediately dashed at Ricky. Unlike everyone in the room, Ricky was not very experienced in battle. His reflex and reaction time was way slower, as Ricky didn't even realize what just happened until he got lifted up by his neck. Ricky felt the grab around his neck getting tightened. He started to struggle to breathe. My lord, Yanob, the old mage tried to stop the Baron but was stopped in his path by a death glare came for the Baron. Let him go, Baron. Suddenly a melodic voice reverberated through the throne hall. Although Ricky sighed in relief, he wanted the Baron to let him go so he could breathe. The Baron and everyone saw a girl with golden hair gracefully walking towards them. Her eyes contained a sliver of anger. Sect leader Claire. Yanob recognized the girl. It has been almost 2 years since Yanob has seen Claire. She didn't seem like the girl he saw 2 years ago. Let Ricky go before he comes here, Baron. Claire came to stand beside Ricky. She was more concerned about what would happen to the Baron and his men if Ghost saw this rather than being mad at the Baron for treating Ricky like this. You think I'm afraid of him? The Baron was obviously not thinking it clear due to his current state. Claire knew that. I'm telling you for your own sake, Baron. If you aren't afraid of him, you should be. Now let him go before this escalates any further. Did he kill my Jane? Still, the Baron hadn't let go of Ricky as Ricky's face started to turn purple. No, what are you talking about? We all know who killed her. Whoosh. Just when the Baron was about to say something and Ricky was going to faint, a powerful gust of wind blasted away the Baron and Yanob. Claire heard the crackling noise of lightning bolts coming from behind. My lord. The soldiers immediately rushed towards the Baron to project him as well as help him stand on his feet. Ghost. Claire turned back to see Ghost standing in front of her. The golden lightning bolts danced around his right hand while his left hand had a sleeping nightmare. The 3 noble prisoners were wiggling on the ground. Their heads were covered. Hence they had no idea what just happened. They just felt a powerful gust of wind pushing them onto the ground face first. I want to send you with the respect you deserve, Baron Totonk. Don't make it difficult for you. Take a walk and calm yourself down. Claire couldn't help signing in relief. She almost thought Ghost was going to massacre everyone. Recently he was becoming very unpredictable, as though he was a ticking time bomb. There were 12 people in the hall excluding Claire, Ricky, and Ghost himself. Baron Totonk was at the core formation stage level 3 while the old mage was at core strengthening stage level 3. The rest of the guards were only at core formation stage level 6. If Michael wanted, he could kill every single one of them, including the old mage. Honestly, he wanted to kill them, he wanted to massacre them. He was resisting killing them with every fiber in his body. Take them away, sect leader Claire. Michael doubted he would be able to stop himself from killing them. System, what the hell is wrong with me? Michael asked the system before turning back to leave the throne hall. System level is too low to answer the host's question. Please upgrade the system level. So something is wrong with me? Fuck, Michael cussed inside as he walked towards the door to leave the throne hall. He could feel the bloodthirstiness increasing inside him at a monstrous speed. At this rate, he would really be the Dark Lord everyone was so afraid of. Stop. Claire saw Baron Totonk screaming as loud as he could. His eyes were bloodshot red. It was obvious the Baron was furious. Regardless of the Baron's scream, Michael didn't hear him. He was too focused on controlling himself from massacring everyone. He continued to walk away when Claire saw a ball of purplish fire appear before the Baron's hand. Don't. Claire was too late as the Baron threw the fireball at Ghost. It was not a powerful spell, just a miscellaneous spell used to chase away low-level beasts. The spell was quick to cast as well as it was a chantless spell. The fireball soared through the air like an arrow. Just as it was about to hit Michael, a light blue translucent shield appeared around him. The fireball disappeared when it hit the shield. Claire's heart skipped a beat when she saw Ghost halt his steps. He slowly turned back as she saw the veins on his face popping up. He was literally shaking, and Claire had never seen Ghost shiver in anger. Ghost. Claire approached him cautiously because something didn't feel right to her. Do not test me. Chapter 377. The words that came out of Michael's mouth sounded unearthly. It sent a chill running through Claire's spine. A wave of fear hit the core of the armored soldiers. Unconsciously they took a step back. Michael was on the verge of going berserk on them. Every being in his body wanted to slaughter them mercilessly. Did you hurt, my Jane? Baron Totonk grumbled. You know what? Michael was tired of people accusing him with no evidence. Although he ordered Gaia to kill Jane, there was no evidence that tied the murder to him. He knew even if he hadn't done anything to Jane, these people would have accused him anyway. Everyone stared at Michael's face to see what he was going to tell. He took a few steps forward as Claire's heartbeat continued to rise. I don't give a, he breathed between every word. He was battling with himself to block the thrust for chaos. Arg, suddenly Michael growled in pain. He lowered his head as he placed Nightmare on the ground. Yawn. The little dragon slowly opened his eyes while yawning. Claire and Ricky saw the side of his face while the Baron and his men could only see the top of his head. They could vaguely hear him mumble something under his breath. Give what? The Baron asked, gritting his teeth. His grief and booze he drank made him lose all the reasons. Give a fuck about what happened to that bitch. His words stunned the Baron. It took the Baron a couple of seconds to sink in what he just said. Michael's voice became more animalistic, it was unearthly. When the words finally reached the Baron's head, he stomped the ground in anger. Shit, something's wrong with Ghosty. Abruptly the door to the throne hall closed with a loud bang. After the door closed, suddenly the curtains covering the windows also began violently fluttering in the wind. The wind was so powerful that it forced Nightmare and Claire to step backward. Claire wasn't worried about Ghost but worried about the soldiers and the Baron. Regardless of the sudden darkness that enveloped the throne hall, she walked towards Ghost to calm him down. Claire, let's go. As she walked closer to Ghost, she heard his words. The violent wind somewhat calmed down. Noticing he addressed Claire with no title, she knew something was wrong. She wanted to take him away from the soldiers and the Baron. His voice sounded normal rather than animalistic as before. Ricky, we are leaving. Claire ignored the Baron, ordering Ricky to leave the throne hall before Ghost did something that everyone would regret later. She even doubted they would be alive to regret their decision to mess with him. I'm gonna rip that tongue out, bastard. Baron Totonk trembled in anger before leaping into the air. A gigantic war hammer-plated silver materialized in the Baron's hands in the midair. Moonwave. Claire stomped the ground, turning back. She pointed her finger at the Baron as a sparkling crescent-shaped wave shot out of her fingers. The blade gradually became wider and bigger as they flew towards the Baron. Before the Baron could react to the crescent blade, the wave hit the Baron and sent him flying backward as though he was a kite without an anchor in the storm. Except for the old mage Yanab, the soldiers didn't see what just happened. Claire's movements were lightning fast. Back off. Claire stomped the ground once again as the ground split open. The cracks formed until they reached the feet of the soldiers. Yanab was pleasantly surprised by Claire. She seemed to be at the peak of core formation. The old man wanted the Baron to accept their fate and move on, but he saw the Baron stand up with shelved hair, trembling in anger. A battle was inevitable, Yanab knew. What are you morons looking at? Kill them! Nightmare flapped his wing to appear before Claire. He immediately transformed himself. The soldiers shivered seeing an 8-foot dragon staring at them with puffs of smoke coming out of its nostrils. Nightmare's crimson scales began to glow in bright orange. Baron, you really don't want to do this. I can hang you for disrespecting your king. Claire glanced at Michael to let them know who he is now to them. He was still showing his back to them. You, stupid idiots, once again, Michael's animalistic voice echoed through the throne hall. You wish for death so bad, the violent stormy wind returned. The howling sound of the wind gave an ominous feeling. Ghost, Claire tried to touch his shoulder as he finally looked up, showing his face. When he turned around, Claire's heart skipped a beat. She felt a chill running through her spine. Unconsciously she stepped back and so did Ricky. There was no white in his eyes anymore, except for his pupils, everything turned pitch black. His pupils were fiery red, like a demon. Lightning bolts began to form around his arms as he walked towards Baron Totonk. He may have become a king, but the soldiers and Yanab's instincts to protect their lord kicked in. Regardless of a dragon standing before them, they rushed towards the Baron. Ghost, stop. Claire dashed at Michael when he was just a couple of meters away from the Baron. Don't. Claire heard his cold beastly voice before getting blasted by an invisible force. Mary. Nightmare shouted when Claire was sent flying by Ghost. With a flap of his wing, he dashed at Claire. However, the force that hit Claire was far greater than anyone could imagine. She hit the wall, creating a loud thud before falling down to the ground unconscious. Michael seemed to give no shit about what happened to Claire. He continued to walk towards the Baron. Hallowing bolt, Yanab immediately pointed his staff at Michael as a bolt of purple energy blast shot out of the staff. The responsive shield immediately appeared to absorb the blast, but since Yanab was at core strengthening stage level 3, it couldn't completely absorb the attack. The remaining force hit Michael, sending him sliding away from the Baron. I will grant your wish. His pupils glowed brighter while the golden lightning bolts dancing around his arm became thicker. They produced constant crackling noises of electricity. The bolts of lightning coiled around his arm like hundreds of tiny snakes. The entire throne hall became darker. Regardless of the daylight outside, it was like evening inside the throne hall. Ignitia, Michael raised his arm as a bolt of powerful lightning bolt fired out of his arm towards Yanab. The death range enhanced his power exponentially. Before Yanab finished casting a defense spell, the bolt of light reached him. If it wasn't for the old man's quick reflex to leap just in time, he would have had a hole in his chest. Protect Lord Totonk, one of the loyal soldiers shouted before dashing at Michael with his sword held high. Ricky couldn't help shivering looking at the soldier running towards Michael. Ricky saw a ghost remaining there without even moving an inch. Pulch. Just when the soldier was a couple of seconds from cutting open Michael in half, the soldier froze in his path. Nard, the fellow soldiers screamed. Behind their helmets, they were horrified. A hand was sticking out of Nard's metal-covered behind. The hand had a red oozing blop in its hand. Ricky's face turned pale as he realized the oozing blop in Ghost's hand was nothing but a human heart. The heart was still beating in his hand, but it was soon crushed into a paste by Ghost. Ricky immediately threw up. When Michael retrieved his hand, the soldier collapsed onto the ground. Looking at Ghost staring at them with blood dripping down to the ground from his hand, a dread hit the core of the soldiers. Still, they were surrounding the Baron and waiting for Yanob to help them. If anyone could help them, it was their court mage. "Anyone who stands in my way," a devilish grin slowly emerged on Ghost's face. It was not a smile that radiated warmth. On the contrary, it was a smile that created a tingling sensation in their spines in fear. Ignitia, just when Yanob was casting another spell, Michael sent another lightning bolt. He didn't even look at Yanob, he just raised his hand while keeping eye contact with their soldiers. Yet again Yanob dashed out of the lightning bolt's trajectory. Currently, there were 9 fully armored soldiers surrounding the Baron. Even for someone at the core formation level 10, 9 fully armored soldiers as well as a core strengthening stage mage was a huge threat, but not for Michael. The death range was cast by him without his command. It catapulted his overall strength to core strengthening stage level 6. One step at a time, Michael walked towards the soldiers. He kept tilting his head left and right while grinning. Chaos Blade, Savagery of Strength. 2 soldiers simultaneously cast spells that boosted their strength. They dashed at Michael. One soldier's metal armor began to glow in bright golden color while the other one became bulkier like the Hulk. They dashed at Michael from both sides. Michael grabbed the sword in one soldier's hand while grabbing the bulkier soldier by his neck. Before the two of them could wiggle, Michael simply snapped the bulkier soldier's neck. The bulkier soldier collapsed onto the floor with a thud sound. The soldier struggled to release the sword from Ghost's hand, yet he couldn't even move his sword an inch. The other soldiers wanted to join the fight, but they couldn't leave the Baron unprotected. Hence, they saw Ghost pull the sword from their college's hand like taking candy from a child's hand. Cling! As Michael took the sword, he snapped the sword in half. Pulch! 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 The soldier tried to dash backward, but he was too late. Michael plunged the broken arrow directly into the soldier's shoulder through the metal armor. Without showing a shred of mercy, Michael kept rapidly stabbing the soldier until the soldier's lifeless body fell onto the ground. However, his brutality didn't stop at that. He stomped the soldier on the chest, crushing his chest. Death and Chaos, TSK, TSK. So beautiful. Yesterday I wanted to release 2 chapters, but this chapter wasn't up to the usual standards. So I deleted the entire chapter and rewritten it so the chapter will be worth your time and money. Sorry for not keeping my word. Chapter 378, Mary, open your eyes. Nightmare shrunk himself. He rubbed Claire's face with his hand to wake her up. Ricky was staring at Ghost rip the hand off of a soldier and beating another one to death with the bloody hand. He couldn't see the brutality anymore as he turned his head towards sect leader Claire. There was a hole in the wall where she hit before falling onto the ground. Fiery frenzy. While Michael was busy stopping a soldier to death, Yanob screamed, casting a powerful fire spell. Immediately a stream of lava shot towards Michael from his staff. Humph! His crimson red landed on Yanob. The old mage felt a chill. He could feel his soul shudder in fear. The soldiers saw Ghost standing there without even moving an inch. In a few seconds, the lava stream hit his body, but weirdly the stream went through him. Only then did they realize it was an afterimage as the figure of Ghost faded into thin air. They quickly moved closer to the Baron. He was still trying to push them away and fight Ghost himself, but the soldiers were manhandling the Baron to protect him. Suddenly Yanob's instincts kicked in as he felt someone's behind him. He tried to dash away, but a hand grabbed him by the back of his neck. Yanob opened his mouth to cast a quick spell, but another hand closed his mouth. You should have left when you had the chance, Yanob heard Ghost's voice. It didn't sound like the voice of any human. It was something different, cold, murderous, and bone-chilling. Now you are going to die, and oh. The Baron screamed at Yanob, but it was too late for Yanob. His head exploded into nothing but red mist. Lord Yanob. The soldiers couldn't believe he killed Yanob. Yanob was the most powerful mage in Bradford. He studied with the royal court mage of royal land himself. The old man settled in Bradford to live his old age in peace, yet because of the Baron, he died a horrible death. 2 decades ago, when the Baron was a young man, he saved Yanob from a beast attack. The two of them become like father and son. Hence Yanob loved Jane as his own granddaughter. Hence when he heard she was murdered by Lucifer, he immediately came to Bradford. Yanob always had the feeling that the Baron was in danger. That was why he stayed by his side ever since Jane died. Also, the old man wanted to find who killed Jane. Shit, quick, escort his lord outside the manor. We will hold him off. Two soldiers came forward while the rest of them grabbed and rushed towards the door. Too late, as they heard his voice, the soldiers saw him disappear from Yanob's headless body. In a blink of an eye, he appeared on their path. Let me go, I will kill him, the Baron tried to wiggle out of the defense formation. Ghosty, stop, let them go, Nightmare shouted at Michael to stop him from massacring the soldiers. Unlike the Baron who tried to kill him, the soldiers did nothing but their job. They were innocents and they did not deserve such brutal death. I will let them go, the soldiers couldn't help sighing in relief. For a moment, they really thought the dragon saved them all. However, when they heard his next words, they were horrified. To hell, the lightning bolts gradually disappeared as the dark crimson-red flame coiled around his arms. They moved around his arms as though they were tiny snakes. Nightmare noticed he was casting spells without uttering the name of the spells. Until one reaches the fusion stage, they wouldn't be able to perform chantless spells, yet he was using spells without casting them. Moreover, the lightning bolts and now the flame seemed like they were being manipulated to his will instead of the cast using arch energy. If someone from the Sky Hall saw Michael, they would be speechless. No one in the world except some higher-ups knew about the existence of ancient gods. Elemental manipulation was the power wielded by the ancient god themselves. No mortal could even grasp the basics of elemental manipulations, yet Ghost controlled two elements, lightning and fire. Go. We will buy you as much time as we can. The two brave soldiers knew they couldn't stop him, yet the oath they took to protect the Baron gave them the courage to face Ghost. The one who was at the fault was the Baron himself. If it wasn't for him picking up the fight with Ghost, those soldiers and Yanob would have still been alive. For the Baron. For the Baron. The two soldiers dashed at Michael, letting out a loud battle cry. Nightmare flapped his wing to dash at Michael before he could kill the two soldiers. The dragon wanted to save Ghost from himself. The Ghost he knew would have never killed them. He was cunning and calculating. However, at the moment, he seemed like a new person. Even when he was in his Lucifer persona, Nightmare had never seen him lose his cool. He always remained level-headed. More than ever, he missed Gaia now. If anyone could stop Ghost, it was Gaia. Get her out of here, Nightmare flew at Michael after instructing Ricky to get Claire out of the throne hall. Ghost. Nightmare was flying towards him, the soldiers were dashing at Michael, the soldiers were escorting the Baron towards the door, and Ricky was taking Claire away from Ghost. Everything seemed like it was happening in slow motion to Michael. He never felt this strong before. Those soldiers and everyone in the room seemed so puny. Feel like barbecue, as Michael grinned, he raised his arms as two scorching hot streams of fire shot from both his hands. Arg! The fire enveloped the two soldiers. Their screams of agony echoed through the manor's walls, but soon, their cries disappeared. In the place they stood before remained nothing but a pile of hot ashes and two scorched skulls. Ghost! Nightmare cried. Just as the dragon was about to reach him, he turned his gaze to look at Nightmare. Seeing the crimson-red eyes staring at him, Nightmare felt a chill. In the corner of his eyes, Nightmare saw finally Ricky leave the hall with Claire. He felt somewhat relieved in his heart. But the moment the door shut behind Ricky, the entire hall turned dark. Only Michael's red eyes and Nightmare's glowing crimson scales could be seen in the hall. Regardless of the sudden blackout, Nightmare could see Michael's figure. He was getting taller and bulkier. Suddenly a bright white light flashed across Nightmare's face. The light made him close his eyes, and when he opened his eyes, he was lying on the bed in Lucifer's underground mansion in the dark forest. Back at the Baron's manor, Baron Totonk heard his soldiers cry in agony. The sound of bone and metal crunching lessened his hangover. The darkness in the hall coupled with what he saw made the Baron feel a tingling fear in his heart. Fucker, where are you? Baron growled. What kind of sorcery is this? Baron was unable to comprehend how he turned the day into night. As he was trying to cast a light spell, a wave of hot liquid splashed on his face. In a few moments, the hall completely became silent. He could literally taste blood in his mouth. He knew the hot liquid was the blood of his men. Once again the warhammer materialized in the Baron's hand. He was prepared to defend himself and kill Ghost. However, he didn't see Ghost. Instead, he vaguely saw the red glowing eyes moving away from him. The warhammer radiated a faint light that enabled the Baron to vaguely see Ghost standing before the three noble prisoners. He could hear the nobles mumble, but soon, he heard the sound of a dagger slicing through flesh and blood. The Baron continued to see the red glowing eyes moving around the hall as though Ghost was looking for something. Fucker, face, me like a man? Tisk tsk, I'm not a man. The Baron heard his voice coming from all directions. He couldn't pinpoint where he was talking from. The Baron started to wave his warhammer all around, hoping to hit Ghost. I am much more than just a man. The Baron swung his warhammer violently, turning behind as he heard Ghost talk from behind. Let's talk about what a failure of a man you are. Baron heard Ghost snicker. You were searching and punishing whoever might have killed your daughter, argh. Baron swung his warhammer yet again in the dark. She died because of your incompetence. As a father, you were supposed to protect her. Ghost's words were like needles piercing through his heart. You were trying to blame someone else for her death. Baron continued to swing his warhammer in anger. It was you who spoiled her. If anyone is to be blamed, it should be you. A failed father. As the Baron heard these words, without even his control or willingness, he lost the hold of the warhammer. Tears flooded out of his eyes as he fell to his knees. You spoiled her and made what she was, her death, on you. Baron could hear the voice getting closer and closer. However, he was in no mood to fight. The words uttered by Ghost shifted the blame and anger from Lucifer to himself. Imagine how she would have cried for her daddy. When the life was leaving her, she would have prayed for you, prayed for her father to come and save her. Baron felt a gust of wind as he looked up to see the glowing red eyes of Ghost staring directly in his eyes. You failed her, you failed your baby girl, you let her suffer, you let her go through that pain and agony, you killed her. The words were doing something inside the Baron. He couldn't take it anymore. The Baron wanted nothing but Ghost to stop. It felt like these words torturing his soul itself. He couldn't help imagining Jane crying for him to save her. Take this and take your pathetic life. At least you will get a chance to say sorry for failing her. The Baron felt Ghost placing the dagger in his hand. Jane, the Baron mumbled as he gripped the dagger tighter. Don't make her wait this time, Pulch. As the darkness faded away from the hall, several lifeless bodies could be seen lying on the hall. One of the bodies was the Baron with a long deep cut around his neck. Chapter 379 Crime Investigation. When the heavy rain finally slowed down to a drizzle, two figures landed on the front lawn of the Baron's manor in Bradford. As they descended on the ground, they were welcomed by a bunch of guards in both full metal armor and leather armor. Archers were atop the manor looking at the surrounding cautiously while several groups of soldiers patrolled the manor around. There was red tape surrounding the manor with commoners staring at the manor from behind the tape. The soldiers were struggling to keep the commoners from crossing the line. Regardless of the dark clouds hovering in the sky above them, the people didn't seem like they would leave the manor. The soldiers didn't dare to stop the two figures because they all knew who they were, guardians. The two figures who came were none other than Peyton and Zanali. What's going on here? Zanali asked Peyton, looking at the tensed faces of the soldiers. Zanali expected the people of Bradford to be in shock, but they looked more terrified than shocked. You will know soon, Peyton simply said instead of explaining. The two of them walked towards the manor's main door. Some of the soldiers who saw the Guardian crest on Peyton and Zanali's clothes heaved a sigh of relief. Along the way, the soldiers who were patrolling the manor halted their steps to bow. Giving them a simple nod, Peyton and Zanali made their way towards the manor. The two soldiers standing near the door quickly opened up the door without a question when they saw the Guardian crest on their chests. As the door slowly opened, they saw a couple of holy guards talking to a young man. Peyton had seen the dark-haired young man before at the arena. He dressed in full black like Ghost, but he was far cry from Ghost. Peyton knew who he was. He was one of the Ghost's lackeys, Ricky Cruz. Born and raised in a poor family, joined the military of Breedia when he was 16 years old after his father retired from the post of gate guard. His life turned upside down when he met Ghost. At the moment, Ricky's monthly wage was far greater than any soldier on the continent. Within a year, Ricky brought his family from a small village in Breedia to the residential area of the Sunrise Sect. Ghost was transforming the Sunrise Sect mountain range into his own mini-kingdom. They were creating several zones in the mountain range. The main mountain had constructions related to the sect and academic purposes. According to Peyton's New Dawn team, the second zone was supposed to be a residential area. Another rumor she heard about Ghost as he was searching for elven architects to work with dwarves to transform the mountain range without destroying the forests and wildlife in the mountain range. His love for nature always made Peyton really wonder about his personality. He never seemed like a person who would care for Mother Nature. However, he was an alchemist and the owner of the largest herbal garden in Breedia. Hence, his love for nature somewhat made sense. Taking her glance away from Ricky, Peyton saw several horribly mutilated bodies lay on the ground. The entire hall reeked of blood and arch energy. "Miss Peyton," suddenly Peyton heard a calming voice from behind. She turned back to see Ghost walking towards her with a welcoming smile on his face. "I wish we had met under a different circumstance," she nodded as he turned his gaze towards Zanali. "Miss," Zanali gave him a cold nod, but he didn't seem like he cared. "What happened here, Ghost? Or should I call you King Ghost?" Zanali noticed the smile on Peyton's face. It was peculiar as she thought Peyton hated Ghost to the core. "Nah. I prefer you call me Ghost as long as I don't have to call you Guardian Peyton." Too tongue-twisty, Ghost chuckled as Peyton nodded. "What happened here?" The smile on Ghost's face disappeared as he sighed after hearing Peyton's question. "Follow me, it's better if I showed you." Peyton and Zanali followed him behind to the east side of the throne hall. The shadows of pillars and the curtains darkened the floor beneath. The closer they got, they saw a body lying on the ground. Compared to the rest of the bodies, the body before them was intact. "That's Baron Totonk." Zanali was stunned. She looked at the deep cut around his neck before turning her gaze back at Peyton. Peyton, however, didn't look as shocked as her. She just adjusted her square spectacles, taking a closer look at the dagger in the Baron's hand. "The Holy Guards are still doing the investigation, but it seems like the Baron took his life with that dagger after going mad on the poor soldiers." Based on the cut and the Baron's body position, Peyton agreed with Ghost on the fact he took his own life. The Holy Guards took the Baron's warhammer. Some soldiers were beaten to death with the hammer, at least it looks that way. Sigh, Ghost sighed as he continued, "The soldiers' family have to conduct a closed casket funeral. I will make sure their families get what they deserve and more." Peyton nodded. "I saw 2 piles of ashes with skulls. I don't think the Baron was powerful enough to cast a spell that powerful. I heard the personal guards of the Baron were at core formation level 6. The Baron was weaker than them and not a mage." "Follow me." Yet again, Zanali followed Ghost behind. They were walking towards the throne where Zanali saw a holy guard in full white metal armor standing beside. Noticing the guardians approaching, the holy guard walked away from the body. As the holy guard moved away from the body, Zanali saw the complete body, or what was left of it. In the place where the head should have been, Zanali saw brain matter, skull pieces, and blood. She felt nauseous just by looking at it. She thought Gaia's killing was brutal, but what happened inside the throne hall was on another level compared to the killings of Gaia. Zanali couldn't believe it was done by a normal being. It seemed like something much worse stormed into the hall and massacred them without a shred of mercy. Their bodies were mutilated. She doubted even Ghost was capable of such violence. Ugh, Peyton whistled as she took a look at the staff in the mage's hands. "If I'm a gambling man, I would say this is Yanab, the Baron's court mage, and he has something to do with that spell, maybe." Peyton squatted near the body. She studied the body for a few moments before turning her gaze to look at the 2 piles of ashes. Meanwhile, Zanali and Ghost patiently stared at Peyton. "It depends on how powerful the spell was, but the distance makes sense." of course it does, Michael thought. He was not a hitman in this world as he used to be, but that didn't mean he forgot how to erase the evidence and create new ones to throw the authorities off. It took him half an hour to rearrange the bodies and set up a new crime scene. As far as Michael was concerned, unless someone like Sherlock Holmes comes to see the crime scene, no one could find any evidence that ties him to the killings. As for Ricky and Claire, he didn't worry about them. He made Ricky his subordinate to see the loyalty level. The youngster was 95% loyal to him. In addition to being loyal, Ricky promised he won't tell a soul what happened in the throne hall. Of course, Michael didn't believe his words alone. Yet, Ricky was too valuable and loyal to just kill him. Hence, Michael placed a spy cam on him and ordered Azazel to monitor him all day every day. If Ricky kept his mouth shut, he would live. Claire's situation was somewhat complicated thanks to his stupid outburst. His instincts told Michael not to harm Claire but only place a spy cam on her too. In truth, Michael didn't think Claire would ever rat him out to the Guardians. Just like Ricky, she would not be harmed as long as she kept her mouth shut. Although he didn't want to kill Claire, if she ratted him out, he would have to kill her. Too much was at stake. He was mad at himself for not being able to control his bloodthirstiness. He felt like he was caged inside his own body and someone else took over his body to kill them all. The moment he finished dealing with the Guardians and the Holy Guards, he wanted to have a long chat with the system to find what was wrong with him. The urge to kill was under control unlike before, but he wanted to fix himself before he was being taken over. "Ghost, did you inform the Baron's family?" Peyton asked. "Yes, I sent the men to let his sons know what happened here. Giving the answers of what really happened here depends on Holy Guards and you guys. I urge you to do a complete investigation. My men and I will help in any way we can, Your Majesty. The nobles are here." Peyton saw Ricky call for Ghost. "Excuse me, Miss Peyton, I have kingly duties to take care of now." "Of course, we will be in touch," Peyton said. Zanali stared at Ghost's figure slowly disappearing from her sight. Then she asked Peyton, "What do you think that happened here, Peyton? You buy his story?" "I don't." Peyton adjusted her spectacles, "but I also don't think he has something to do with the killings. He is a core formation level 10. Although he is very powerful, he couldn't have killed all those core formation warriors and a core strengthening stage mage. I knew Mage Yanab, he couldn't have been killed by Ghost." Peyton was not wrong though. What killed them all was not indeed Ghost. It was something much more powerful, the sprout of the true Dark Lord. Chapter 380. Back in the dark forest, Michael was standing in front of a mirror staring at his reflection. "My lord, you're here." Azazel hovered through the walls to see Michael. The demon butler frowned, noticing the scars on Ghost's body. "Something happened, my lord?" Azazel asked. Ghost was not wearing any face mask to hide his face. Azazel was completely loyal to him. Besides, in the future, Azazel would have to work with both his personas, Ghost and Lucifer. He thought of Azazel as Alfred to his Batman. Baron Totonk and a bunch of soldiers who were just doing their job were killed, Ghost said, throwing the long coat he was holding in his hand to the bed. "Who killed them, my lord?" "Me." Michael slowly walked towards the mirror. He put his hand on the mirror. Boom! Suddenly Michael punched the mirror as the glass mirror shattered into tiny pieces. The broken pieces on the ground reflected Michael's angered face. "Have you finished with the surveillance room?" Azazel nodded. "Yes, my lord, I can now monitor your spycams 24/7. "Good, now go. I need some time alone. I will be waiting for your order, my lord." Bowing his head, Azazel left the room. After Azazel left the room, Michael sat on the bed. On his face, there was no sign of delight thinking about how he was going to break through to the core strengthening stage. Rather, he was more worried about his outburst and the third persona. "System, what's happening to me?" Michael entered the system interface. Staring at the status window, he asked the system. "The system's level is too low. The next upgrade will cost the host 200,000 badass points. Does the host wish to upgrade the system to 4.0? Do it." Michael was too focused on what just happened to him. He wasn't in the mood to bitch with the system for its uselessness to this situation. The experience cap for each level in the core strengthening stage will be reduced by 25% after upgrading the system. Initial experience cap 800,000, System 4, 0 experience cap 600,000, System upgrade is in progress. I hope you have an answer to my problem system, System version 3. 0 host, Michael cultivation level, core formation stage, level 10 experience points, 400,000/400,000, 1,800,000 points remaining to be consumed, badass points, 500,000 skills and spells, wind blast, LVL6 responsive shield, LVL8 environment scanning, LVL6 ignitia, LVL8 lightning dash, LVL6 energy devolver, LVL2 death range, LVL3 eyes of darkness, normal, can sense the cultivation level of others' eyes of darkness, Lucifer, can sense the cultivation level of others, can see through. Illusions cloud of darkness, Lucifer, weak-willed enemies will lose their courage completely and surrender. Death range will be 50% more powerful. If activated in darkness, the host's cultivation level will be boosted 4 levels up regardless of the stage barrier. Wordless spell caster, Lucifer, in full Lucifer form, the host just has to think of the spell to cast it. Techniques, Swords of Destiny, 95% mastery Ring of Fire, 83% mastery Serpent Maga, 96% mastery Occupation. Core Disciple of Sunrise Sect, the Guardian of Sunrise Sect, Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal, the Dark Lord, King of Bradford status. Healthy goals. Control the world, rebuild the Order of Death, utility function. Banker, LVL 5, ratio. 1,000 gold coins, 40 badass points, runic teleportation, X-ray vision, also integrated with Eyes of Darkness. Wealth, 5 million gold, special trait, 5-star Alchemist 3. Star Inventor subordinates, Gaia, Warrior, loyalty level 100%. Raylene, 5-star Chef, loyalty level 99%. Arya, Assassin, loyalty level 38%. Heinberg, Warrior, loyalty level 35%. Maxine, Warrior, loyalty level 98%. Tiberius, Warrior, loyalty level 45%. Sadie, loyalty level 30%. Ricky, loyalty level 95%. The Silent Reaper crew, Pirates, loyalty level 80%, base of operation. Sunrise Sect, the Abyssal, the Crypt Kingdom of Bradford familiars, Nightmare, Forest Dragon, Vidora, 3-headed Hydra. While the system was upgrading itself, he noticed the 5% loyalty drop in the Silent Reaper crew. It made sense though, as they were stuck in the crypt instead of pillaging the ships in the sea. Ever since the Guardians destroyed the Silent Reaper, Michael was keeping the pirate crew in the crypt in Undead Island. He provided enough rations for them to last for 3 months. Although Maxine was there to oversee the pirates, the crypt was like a cage to the free-spirited pirates. Michael lost track of time. In a blink of an eye, 6 hours passed by. The system upgrade is completed, current system level 4, 0. The host has 1,600,000 experience points left to consume. Does the host wish to consume the points? Before we do that, tell me what happened to me earlier? The system's level is too low, what the? Michael couldn't believe what he just heard. He spent 200,000 badass points to upgrade the system, yet he received nothing. On top of being pissed at himself, the system's uselessness kindled the fire of anger inside him. Shit, how much for the next upgrade? 600,000 badass points. Michael wanted to punch the system if it had a physical body. However, he quickly controlled his anger before he might lose control again. Instead of getting consumed by anger, Michael calmed himself down. He tried to think instead of letting the anger overtake his brain. System, consume the points. The breakthrough to the core strengthening stage will take 4 days, warning. The system will be offline for 4 days, warning. The host will be in an unconscious state for 4 days. The system will notice the host if the host was in danger. Do it. Michael wasn't worried about his safety as he was in the dark forest. Besides, he let the elders handle the meeting with the nobles in Bradford. His top priority now was to get stronger and find a cure for his new problem of losing control of his mind. Congratulations to the host for reaching the next stage, the core strengthening stage. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is core for strengthening stage level 1. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is Core for Strengthening Stage Level 2. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is Core for Strengthening Stage Level 3. Unlike before, Michael received neither gifts nor special items from the system for upgrading it to the next level or reaching the core strengthening stage. For others, Michael was cultivating in a heaven-defying speed. But for him, he was moving at a snail's pace. In a blink of an eye, 4 days had passed. Slowly, Michael felt the control of his body returning to him. His consciousness returned as he slowly opened his eyes. In Ghost Persona, the host is undefeatable to anyone under Core Strengthening Stage Level 5. In Complete Lucifer Persona, the host is undefeatable to anyone under Core Strengthening Stage Level 7. When he activates the Cloud of Darkness and Eyes of Darkness, his Lucifer form would be completed. In that complete form, if he activated the Death Range in the darkness, his power would be boosted 4 levels higher. Hence he would be undefeatable to anyone at or under Core Strengthening Stage Level 7. I must find an answer to my problem, Michael mumbled to himself. Do I suffer from multiple personalities? It can't be. I created Lucifer to dominate the world, but people had been expecting me for thousands of years. Michael did not even leave the bed as he began to ponder. Only thing that makes me different from the young masters like Noah is my ability to keep myself calm. I cannot lose my reasoning ever again. I need to fix myself, but where do I search for answers to my problem? He missed Gaia now more than ever. I said, no, rather he said that death and chaos are so beautiful. Michael remembered what he said during the massacre. If he could find out about the persona's characteristics, he might be able to find some answer, at least he thought. What if that's the Dark Lord the Guardians were afraid of? That's who I'm gonna be in the future? No, no one controls my fate except me. Michael took a deep breath. An unwavering resolution emerged in his eyes. His feet touched the ground as he cracked his neck. Who am I kidding? That was me, more powerful. He remembered how powerful he felt when slaughtering the guards. Although he felt pity for them, he had to admit that he was frickin' powerful. Even Yanab, a core strengthening stage mage, was so powerless against him. If I could control myself in that form. Michael snickered. My lord, Michi's train of thoughts was interrupted by Azazel's voice. He heard the demon butler's voice coming from the other side of the walls. Come on in, Azazel. The demon butler floated towards him. What is it? As he asked, Michael took a new set of black long coats and turtlenecks from his space ring. He put them on, adjusting the collars and sleeves before turning his gaze back at Azazel. While you were cultivating here, I received a request to meet you from Lady Maxine from the crypt. Apparently, some pirates have been acting strange. Is that so? I think I have to return to the southern continent. Michael willed the system to equip Lucifer armor as well as change his face using the face mask. My lord, what should I do while you're gone? Azazel asked with utmost respect. Clean up the throne hall. It's time I gather my minions and start the world domination. The tournament arc has finally come to an end with this chapter. From the onwards, we will venture into the new arc. Yes, I heard your concerns about the spirit child and Michael losing his mind. If you're worried about the novel going in a cliché way, it won't. Michael was not perfect. He was far from being perfect. He would have his ups and downs. The next arc will focus on Gaia and Michael's character building as well as some interesting twists. Chapter 381. Inside the Fire Realm, one could see a hot gooey lava river moving in zigzags. If one wasn't careful and greedy, they would mistake the lava river for a river of gold. Through the bubbling lava river, a boat was slowly moving. A girl who had a 3-headed pet on her lap sat on the opposite side of the young man who was rowing the boat. Obviously, it was Gaia, Vidora, and Noah on the boat, as no one else would be crazy enough to choose this route instead of a safer and longer road. Are you absolutely sure there are no fishes in the river? I asked, giving Gaia a puppy look. She instead just rolled her eyes. You just ate the last of my cookies. Rather than minding Gaia and the Hydra's quarrel which was going on for days, Noah focused on the surroundings. There was nothing else except for desolate land as far as he could see. Few boulders here and there, and that's it. The sky was as usual red while the air was filled with ash particles. The red and gray combination gave off an eerie feeling to the fire realm. Fuck, how long it has been since we came here? Iag asked. 94 days to be exact. A glimmer of sadness emerged in Gaia's eyes. She looked at the distant horizon, thinking about Ghost and Nightmare. She missed the two of them like crazy. Noah could see the sadness in her eyes. In fact, he felt happy for Ghost to find a girl who loves him like Gaia. Although she killed innocents and committed many crimes, Noah didn't want the two of them to be separated because of him. He believed in second chances. This was Gaia's second chance. They had been in the river for 5 days. Unlike Gaia believed, there were indeed fishes in the river along with dangerous beasts. If it wasn't for the solution Noah applied on the boat, they would have been inside some beast's belly. The solution was provided to him by the Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians herself. After rowing for another 5 continuous days, Noah's hands started to ache. Fortunately, Noah turned back to see a couple of burned trees appear in his sight. Hey, Noah called out to Gaia to bring her back to reality. That's the entrance. Gaia followed his gaze to see 2 lone trees that had no leaves whatsoever. Even the lightning-struck trees wouldn't look as black and lifeless as those 2 trees. We can beach the boat there. Gaia pointed at the ash shore. Noah nodded before rowing the boat towards the shore. After beaching the copper boat, Gaia placed Vidora inside her satchel safely. They didn't rush but cautiously walked towards the lone trees. That's the spot, Noah said. Vidora craned their necks out to look at the spot Noah pointed at. However, they could only see 2 ordinary trees, and they didn't find anything unusual. What the hell are you talking about? There's nothing but burned trees there, Iag said. Weird, Kane mumbled. He was suspicious of the 2 lone trees. They seemed out of place. Try to sense the energy fluctuations, brat. There's a natural formation between the trees. Gaia flicked the head of Iag. What? What the heck is a natural formation? It's kind of an illusion array, but very different from those made by humans. A natural formation is formed by nature after gathering condensed arch energy for thousands of years. It's a miraculous process, and many know very little about it. Anyone can easily be trapped by it if they don't pay enough attention, Noah explained. His explanation made Iag frown deeper. If it's a fucking illusion array, why are you 2 crazy heads heading towards it instead of running away from it? I said it's a kind of illusion array. Natural formations also act as a portal to travel around the fire realm. Oh, then we are gonna finally get the fuck out of this place. Let's go. Iag changed her opinion lightning quick. She now looked excited to go between the 2 trees, unlike a few seconds ago. Noah too couldn't help but sigh in relief, as if he had just seen a light carrying hope. There were many invisible natural defense mechanisms and formations existing within the depths of Fire Realm, and they came to this lava river because of a natural formation. If they could find another natural formation, they would have a chance at the river. After all, the solution couldn't fend off the beast forever. When or if they came out of the river, they were good as dead. Let's go. Swoosh. Both Gaia and Noah immediately dashed towards the space between the 2 trees. The aura of the natural defense mechanism in this valley was pretty obvious. Even Iag could sense it as they approached. Its aura was much more powerful compared to the formations they happened to stumble upon. When the 3 of them went through the space between the trees, they disappeared from the desolate valley. The scene in front of them changed dramatically once again. It was a plain gray world in front of them. The eerie and chilly energies within were so much stronger compared to the desolate valley they just came from. A stinking smell filled up the air within the place, extremely unpleasant and pungent. Besides this, black whirlwinds appeared all over the place, and the air blowing across the place was cutting them to the marrow. It also carried a strong corrosive characteristic. Congratulations, we escaped from the frying pan into the fire, Iag couldn't help but curse. Be careful, there is poisonous vapor all over the place. A deadly toxic gas merged with the freezing vapor, causing this poisonous vapor to be formed. It's a deadly thing that can kill any cultivator. Noah reminded. Is that so? Gaia snickered as she walked towards one of the black whirlwinds. Bitch, stop, are you trying to kill us? Iag screamed, trying to stop Gaia from walking towards the poison whirlwinds. Gay reached out to touch the whirlwind. Noah was stunned to see nothing really happen to her. Although Nagas were resistant to most poisons, they were not immune to the poison whirlwinds of Fire Realm. However, nothing happened to Gaia when she touched the poison whirlwind. It should have entered through the finger to her brain and killed her in a few seconds. Since that never happened, there was only one explanation for this. That was Ghost made her immune to the poisons using some legendary potions. Noah heard about potions that could be brewed by 5-star alchemists to make someone completely resistant to the poisons known to man. Huh. Iag opened her eyes to see nothing had happened to her like she was expecting. As Gaia was looking smug and feeling proud of Ghost for making them both poison resistant, Noah walked towards them with a calm smile. When he came closer to the black whirlwind, Noah unleashed a blue barrier of flame, covering his entire body. The layer of blue flame covered his body as though it was a blanket. It was a barrier formed by one of the 2 primordial flames, Heaven's Flame, which repelled all poison known to mankind. Gaia was stunned by the blue flame. She had never seen such a majestic flame ever before in her life. She heard Ghost talk about primordial flames, and she could guess that the blue flame on Noah's body was definitely one of the 2 primordial flames. However, she did not let what was in her mind show on her face. Although she could tell Noah wouldn't easily tell her where he got the flame, if she could find out, it would get Ghost one step closer to reaching 6-star alchemist status. This place should be an isolated space, and it doesn't look big. We just need to find the path to the 5-headed serpent's lair, Noah said. He could feel that they were getting closer to the 5-headed serpent. This place was fully filled with toxic vapor and could be considered a natural land of death. It would be really bad luck if anyone ordinary accidentally came to this space. He was covered by a fire barrier, while Gaia just walked next to him like it was nothing. The duo began slowly walking forward. Since the toxicity in the air was too strong, there were no beasts or bandits anywhere nearby. The entire space was extremely quiet, and nothing could be heard except for the tornado's swishing sounds. It gave the space an eerie feeling, as if they had actually come to the real hell. Crack. Suddenly, a cracking sound could be heard from underneath Gaia's foot. It sounded really loud when in this quiet environment. Fuck. What was that? Iag cursed as she was spooked by the sound. They lowered their heads, looking at the ground. Then, they saw an entire skeleton lying where Gaia had just stepped. Her foot caused a hole to appear on the skeleton's chest. This is a skeleton of a soul-strengthening stage warrior. He must have been dead for a long time. Look, all the bone has become porous. You've shattered it. Noah had eagle eyes. Although the skeleton was badly corroded by the poisonous air and had turned completely black, he still found that this was a core-strengthening stage warrior skeleton. This place sucks. A core-strengthening stage warrior could still survive for quite some time in this space without any poison resistance, using archenergy to shield his or her body. The only explanation for his death would be that he depleted all his archenergy in order to resist the poisonous air. He was killed by the poisonous air once he couldn't repel the deadly poison any longer. Why did he come here anyway? Gaia wondered why the cultivator came to the fire realm. Noah and she were here to hunt down the 5-headed serpent so Noah could save Zanala's stepfather, while she was here to absorb the blood and start her metamorphosis. If it wasn't for the 5-headed serpent, Gaia would have never even thought of coming here. What next? Sarba asked after looking around the place. Move forward until we find the 5-headed serpent's trail, Noah smiled. With a determined look in his eyes, he said, just keep moving forward, until we find the 5-headed serpent's trail. The following journey was completely eventless. They kept bumping into new skeletons along their way, and all these skeletons were once core-strengthening stage warriors. Gaia really wondered why this many core-strengthening stage warriors ventured into the fire realm. She even stumbled upon a skeleton of a soul-refining stage warrior. This meant they were looking for something here. The duo had walked for nearly an hour, and they kept bumping into more and more skeletons. The place seemed really desolate. After spending almost 2 hours of walking, they suddenly saw a light blinking in the distance. Look, there is light blinking in front. Iag informed them. She almost shouted. Let's go check it out. Noah saw the light as well. Although the rainbow color light seemed faded, it couldn't escape their eyes. The duo immediately dashed forward, and soon, they arrived at the source of the light. A human. Iag's eyes lit up as she saw a man with disheveled hair was sitting with both legs crossed, not moving at all, which made him look like a stone statue. But the weak aura emitting from his body showed that this old man was still alive. Chapter 382. Both Gaia and Noah slowly approached the old man. As if he had heard something, the old man finally raised his head up, slowly. With cloudy eyes, he looked at them. Vidora quickly went inside the satchel to hide. An old man, a really old man who was long past his prime. The robe covering his body was really loose, he had wrinkled skin on his face and an extremely thin body. He looked just like a skeleton who had nothing but skin. Pretty horrifying as he looked like a mummy. The old man's aura was really weak as if he was going to die at any time. And yet, he was still alive. Sigh, someone is here again, someone is going to die soon, sign. The old man let out 2 sighs. His voice was shrill, making it unpleasant to listen to. It looked like he had gotten used to the deaths happening here. A soul-refining stage warrior, Noah looked closer at the old man. He immediately found out the cultivation level of the old man. But, because the vital signs of the old man were really weak, and there was no celestial energy that could be sensed in his body, as it had been completely depleted, he couldn't determine which level this old man was. Such young sprouts. Too bad you've come to this land of death. The old man let out another sigh, then he just flicked his wrist as a golden barrier appeared around them. It's been 20 years, all who came here before me have gone. Now, I'm soon going to leave as well. For 20 years, I had no one to talk to. At least heavens granted me with my last wish. Pity the last person you're gonna meet is this old man. The old man carried a smile on his face. The despair and anger he had when he first arrived at this place was long gone. He had seen through life and death. The old man seemed calm, no signs of grievance could be found on his face. However, from his pair of cloudy eyes, one could still tell that he is grieving. If this old man leaves this place, his cultivation will take a long dip before rising back again, Noah thought to himself. After breaking through to the soul-refining stage, a cultivator required a constant supply of celestial energy to achieve higher levels in cultivation. If the cultivator didn't get enough celestial energy, his cultivation will gradually decline. Considering this old man was stuck here without celestial energy, when or if he escaped the fire real, his cultivation would drop down to lower stages before returning to his previous state. Shit, you stayed here for 20 years. I hope what you were searching for in Fire Realm is worth it. Gaia rolled her eyes. Being able to stay alive in this harsh environment, you must have been at the peak of soul-refining stage, old man. If I am right, you must have come looking for something that could help you deal with your bottleneck and reach fusion stage. After 20 years in this environment, the bottleneck has gone, but you got stuck here, Noah said with an indifferent tone. Those skeletons belong to the people who came to see what happened to you. Hearing this, the old man's cloudy eyes suddenly light up. He stared at Noah with a look of disbelief. He couldn't help but start examining the young man in front of him. Being able to discover he had a bottleneck with a single look, and also judging his real cultivation level just from knowing how long he had been here was not someone anyone could do. That's why this old man couldn't help being shocked. Besides, he found out that the men who died here came searching for him. What a keen eye, but, too bad, the old man kept shaking his head, his eyes filled with deep regret. He could easily tell that Noah was extraordinary and had innate potential. A genius like this was supposed to become a well-known guy in the world. But now, he had to die in this shit place. What a pity. Gaia was looking around the place to find a way to deal with the golden barrier while the old man was talking to Noah. 20 years ago, I traveled alone to Fire Realm searching for something that could help me reach fusion stage. My damn luck and fate, I accidentally stepped into this place and activated the barrier set up by someone, and it has been 20 years since then. The old man said in a self-mocking manner. He didn't look at Noah, as if he was just talking to himself. But at the same time, it seemed he rather enjoyed the feeling of talking. It seemed like he hadn't talked to anyone for quite a long time. If he could go back in time, he would stop himself from venturing into the fire realm. By estimations, my death will arrive tomorrow. But, I don't want to be like all the other people who died here, having my body corroded by the poison. That's too tragic. Young man, once I die tomorrow, burn my body. This was the last request from an old man who had gone past his prime. The old man looked at Noah, focusing on the flames dancing around his body. Gaia didn't give a shit about the old man's tragedy. She was busy searching for a way out of here. Noah inwardly sighed. The man didn't ask Noah to help him accomplish any weird unfulfilled desire at the last moment of his life, and neither did he have any special orders for Noah. He only requested that Noah burn his body and allow him to have a proper death. Noah, however, just calmly smiled at the old man. Old man, your estimation is really accurate. If I didn't come, you'd be dead by tomorrow. But the Lady Luck smiled on you. Here, Noah walked toward the old man, then he waved his hand and unleashed a flame. The dancing flame shot out from Noah's body took the shape of an angel, a humanoid figure with feathery wings. It transformed into a flame barrier and covered the old man within. In an instant, all the surrounding poisonous vapor was pushed away, as if it had just met its natural enemy. Noah had decided to save this old man, not for any specific reason, but because this old man had been persistently staying alive in this place for 20 years. Noah really respected his endurance. Besides, Noah never ignored anyone in need of help. What a majestic flame, it actually carries a divine aura. Even the poisonous vapor from the fire realm doesn't dare try to corrode it. The old man's eyes opened as wide as they could. After a short shocking moment, the old man returned to his calm state. He looked at the fire barrier covering his body, and with a smile on his face, he said, "Young man, put away this flame barrier, it will only consume your energy and focus. You can't hold it for a long time. The poisonous vapor has already invaded my body, I'm dying. You can only lessen the pain but can't stop the inevitable. If you wanted to die, you could have ended your life a long time ago. You hope to leave this place. Don't lose hope now. Let me help you get rid of all the poisonous miasma in your body." After saying that, Noah placed his palm on the old man's chest. The moment Noah placed his hand on the old man's body swayed a little. He stared at Noah's palm with no idea what Noah was going to do next. He knew very well about his current condition, and it was impossible to get rid of the poison that had invaded his body. The old man who had been tense for the last 20 years had finally loosened up completely at this moment. He saw the confidence in Noah's eyes, and it made him feel calm, as well as hopeful yet again. Noah unleashed the poison-absorbing skill he learned from Andreas, his mentor. Heaven's flame seeped through the old man's body. Sending a primordial flame into someone else's body was extremely dangerous. One misstep and the flame would burn the body into ashes. Yet this old man had no fear because, with his current condition, there was nothing that could scare him. After all, he was soon going to die. Besides, if Noah really was up to something bad, he could just kill the old man with a palm strike. There was no need to go through so much hassle. Heaven's flames circulated an entire round within the old man's body. After that, it returned to Noah's body. It only took Noah a few minutes before he had completed the healing process. Finally, he removed his palm from the old man's chest. Pooh! The old man violently trembled, and in an instant, he threw up a mouthful of black blood and began violently coughing. The old man coughed for some time before he returned to normal. Then, he immediately raised his head to look at Noah, who was calmly smiling at him. The old man checked his body's condition, and he instantly found out that all the poison that had been corroding his body for the last 20 years had disappeared. His internal organs that had completely lost their vital signs were actually pumping with an extremely active force now. More importantly, since all the poison was gone, the old man felt extremely relaxed and comfortable, as if someone had just lifted a gigantic mountain that had been weighing down on him for the last 2 decades. I am healed. The old man closed his eyes. He really enjoyed this moment. It was a feeling he hadn't felt for so many years. 20 years, day by day, year by year, he had been suffering from constant pain. For ordinary people, suffering such severe pain for 20 years would definitely make that person crazy. The old man did go crazy before, but in the end, he had seen through life and death. Now, Noah had restored his hope of living. The old man was immersed in the pleasant moment, and Noah didn't disturb him. He had absorbed all the poison in the old man's body into his own body. After some time, the old man finally opened up his eyes. He looked at Noah and said, "Young man, you really absorbed all the poison in my body into yours. That's really dangerous. Yet, the poison hasn't affected you. How is it possible? Who are you really?" "A guardian," Noah replied with a smile. The old man was stunned, but when he thought about it, everything made sense. Who in the world other than a guardian would venture into a place like this and help a stranger? Guardian? "Young man, you've saved my life today." For the first time in many years, the old man bent his back to bow towards Noah. "What were you searching for here?" Before the old man could start rumbling about gratitude and a way to pay him back, Noah asked him. "The five-headed serpent." The moment the old man spoke these words, Gaia immediately turned back. She dashed forward. "Did you find it? Where is the lair? Tell me." Sigh, the old man sighed. He could tell by seeing the look on her face that they came looking for the five-headed serpent too, just like him 20 years ago. A Naga killed the serpent and absorbed everything except this. As Gaia's heart skipped a beat, the old man flicked his wrist. A charcoal gray stone-like thing appeared in his hand. Noah and Gaia looked closer at the thing to sense pulses coming from within. "The heart," Noah mumbled. Suddenly Gaia grabbed the old man by his neck and lifted him up. "Who killed the serpent?" Regardless of him being grabbed by his neck by the girl, the old man remained calm. Just as Noah was about to stop Gaia, the old man flicked his wrist again as a gold-plated snake-shaped pendant appeared in his hand. From top to bottom, Gaia felt an electric bolt running through her body. She immediately let the old man go before taking the pendant from his hand. "The Naga woman who killed the serpent left this with the heart." Gaia couldn't believe the words coming from the old man's mouth. She was shivering holding the pendant. It seemed like a family heirloom. "If I ever get out, I wanted to return this to her kin." "Wait, something's happening." Unexpectedly Noah sensed energy fluctuations around him. It felt like the space around them was getting distorted. It was the same feeling he had when he was teleported into the Alpha Guardian's warship, but much stronger. Boom! In a blink of an eye, a bright light flashed across Noah's eyes, producing a loud booming sound. He couldn't help closing his eyes. When he opened his eyes, Gaia was gone. On a mountain cliff filled with dancing green lush grass fields, Gaia appeared out of nowhere. The setting sun painted the ocean with its golden rays. Gaia looked around, having no idea what just happened. There were nothing but grass fields and a calm ocean as far as she could see. While she was looking around, she felt a breeze brushing past her from behind. She turned back to see an ethereal figure gradually forming before a couple of meters ahead of her in the air. Mother note: the old man will play an important role in the story. Hence the long chapter about the old man and Noah. I didn't want the chapter to be split into two. It has crossed the 2K word limit. I hope you don't feel it draggy. Chapter 383. Gaia's eyes watered as the ethereal figure took the shape of a woman who looked extremely similar to Gaia but more dominant and majestic. Even if the figure was ethereal, her raven black hair seemed to be fluttered in the air as though they were the wings of an angel. The woman was tall, her perfect structure was covered by metallic black plate armor from her neck to toe. She radiated a fearsome warrior vibe all around her. Her perfect jaw structure would make anyone think that the god themselves sculpted her personally. Regardless of her ethereal form, her green eyes glimmered, reflecting the golden sun rays of the setting sun. Craning their necks out of the satchel, Vidora saw the woman floating a couple of meters away from them. Even Iag was speechless and felt as if she wanted to bow towards the woman. They had never seen such a woman with elegance as the woman before them. In addition to her dominant vibe, she was someone who could be said to be a country-toppling beauty. Even Layla paled in comparison to the woman in terms of beauty and grace. Baby girl, the two words that came out of the woman's mouth sounded like music. Gaia lost all control of her body as she collapsed to the ground on her knees. Tears poured out of her eyes. Mother. Gaia's voice broke in overwhelming pain in her heart. The images of her mother in her mind flashed across her eyes. She couldn't utter any words through the lump in her throat. When her mother died, Gaia was just 3 years old. Still, she had clear memories of her mother playing with her, teaching her to read, teaching her to fight, and showing her how to rule over people. It had been 25 years since she last saw her mother. Gaia wanted to dash towards, hug her mother and never let her go. Baby girl, what did I tell you about crying? Gaia looked up to see the smiling face of her mother. She couldn't help bursting into tears. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop the tears from gushing out of her eyes. The pain in her heart exploded into tears. You are Gaia's mother? Iag asked while Gaia was sobbing her heart out. Despite the question, Gaia's woman didn't even take a look at Iag. She is just a soul fragment left behind. She can't see us or hear us. It's a recording, Cain explained to Iag. Baby girl, if you are here, that means that idiot from the Fisher family was still alive. Listen to my Gaia, I don't think how much of this message will remain at the time you're hearing. Gaia saw the gentle smile on her mother's face disappear. Since you are here, that means the prophecy has started already. Listen to me carefully, baby girl. Gaia looked at her mother without batting an eye. You must find the Dark Lord, Gaia. You must find him. Gaia was stunned by her mother's words. The Skyhall spies are everywhere, Gaia. You must find him before they do. They are not what everyone thinks they are. Mother, are you alive? Gaia asked. Despite what she heard from Cain, she still hoped her mother would be alive. As though she had heard Gaia's question, Gaia's mother sighed. Find the dark elf in the tree, baby girl. He will have answers to your questions and help you find the Dark Lord. The ethereal form of her mother started to flicker as her voice became distorted for a few seconds. You can find him, Akilan realm, B, Skyhall, tree. Her voice became more and more distorted as her figure kept flickering. Dark Lord, only he can save this world. Find him. Whenever Gaia's mother uttered the words Dark Lord, Cain noticed the idolizing look in her eyes. It seemed as though she was worshipping the Dark Lord. He also noticed the vague resemblance of Ghost's choice of black in Gaia's mother's armor. Salisi, stay away, Skyhall, guardians, your father, puppet. Gaia couldn't make sense out of her words. However, she felt a bolt of electricity running through her spine hearing her mother talk about Salisi. Gaia was stunned to see her mother actually know about Salisi because her father married Salisi after her mother died. She shouldn't know about Salisi, yet she seemed to know about Zanala's mother. Mother, don't leave me. Again, seeing the ethereal form of her mother flickering and losing its glow, Gaia quickly picked herself up to run towards her. I love you, my baby girl. Just as the words escaped Gaia's mother's mouth, her ethereal figure disappeared into thin air. Gaia's finger touched the glow before it completely faded away, yet she couldn't stop anything. Gaia remained at the place where her mother was just a few seconds ago. She picked the pendant from the ground and held it so tight in her hands. After a few moments, the tears rolling out of her eyes finally stopped. Gaia whipped off the tears off her face. She stared at the sun setting down into the distant horizon. To others it was sunset, for her, it felt like a new sunrise. The pain and grief transformed into joy because she slowly began to realize that her mother might still be alive. As far as she could remember, her mother died 25 years ago, but clearly, her mother was in the fire realm 20 years ago. If she was dead, she wouldn't have met the old man from the Fisher family. There was no explanation except the possibility that her mother might still be alive and she faked her own death for some reason. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about Salisi. When she thought about everything her mother said, she ended up with more questions than answers. One of the questions was how the hell did her mother know about Ghost, the Dark Lord? Let's go. Iag flapped their wings as they ascended to the air from the satchel. With a few more flaps of their tiny wings, they successfully landed on Gaia's shoulders. I thought our trip to the fire realm was a complete failure, but I'm glad that I'm in the wrong. Sarba gently rubbed his head on Gaia's face. Even Iag moved her head towards Gaia's face before wiping the tears off her face. The three heads of Vidora hugged Gaia and spent a few moments in silence. Their love gave warmth and much-needed fearlessness to Gaia. "Where are we?" Iag asked while still resting her head on Gaia's cheek. "All I know is we are definitely out of the fire realm," Cain sighed. He felt safe after a long time. He couldn't wait to go back home. "Great. We can finally go home," a gentle smile appeared on her face along with an unwavering remote in her eyes. "I am coming back home human. This time, we are going to find my mother together." While Gaia was stuck on the border of the Azer continent, Michael was enjoying the peace and calm of the night sitting on Baron Totonk's throne. He initially planned to teleport back to the crypt to deal with the pirates, but Azazel informed him that the king of Breedia had sent an envoy to deliver him some documents as well as the promised funds. Michael had to return to Bradford and deal with the funds. Fortunately, Elder Sandra, who was responsible for managing the sect's financial side, agreed to manage the financial side of the kingdom too. Hence, he felt relieved because she was really good at finance. If Elder Sandra was born on Earth, she would have made millions or even billions managing funds through her firm. The throne hall reminded him of his biggest mistake to the date since he came to this world. He had lost control of himself. Although it could be viewed as a weakness or potential threat to himself in the future, he saw an opportunity. That mad persona of him was indeed crazy. However, he also felt extremely powerful in that state. If he could somehow control himself in that state, he would be one step closer to ruling this world. As he was thinking about a way to control himself in that state, a golden ball of light appeared out of nowhere in the throne hall. He was stunned as the golden ball of light dashed at him. He almost dashed out of the throne when the golden ball of light stopped before him a couple of meters away from him. Then, the golden ball of light slowly opened to reveal a silver-plated envelope. The envelope was glimmering in the chandelier light. It slowly floated towards Michael. Looking at the envelope, Michael frowned. Carefully, after ordering the system to scan down the letter, Michael reached out to grab the letter floating in front of him. The letter had the name Ghost written in gold with beautiful calligraphy. When he touched the envelope, it opened automatically, revealing the letter inside. What in the actual fuck is this? That was the first question that appeared in Ghost's mind after reading the letter. Hi my wonderful readers, I have read all your concern about Michael losing his calmness and change in personality. I can reassure you that this is just a bump in his journey. The story has just started and the real action will begin from the next arc P. The reason for me pasting the author's thoughts in the chapter itself was to get the readers of pirated sites to change their minds and come to WN. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.